Hey there. Hello there. Happy Thursday. Hope you're all doing fantastic. We have some
Fabulous.
fabulous. We have some stories to talk about today. We're going to talk about the new, well, I guess maybe, no, I guess it is somewhat new, the Trump Ukraine rift that seems to be forming. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But first, we have to talk about this Slate article that came out that's
Hmm.
pretty wild. This
Right.
came out a couple of days ago. It's called "Who's Afraid of Hasan PIKER?"
Hmm. Well, they
And that's
spelled the Hamas wrong.
they spelled Hamas wrong. Yes, he's outspokenly liberal. So you've already have like
Oh
on the
my
first
God,
part
the
of it, just
biggest
like a
lie.
huge flaw that you're right. He's
He,
hot.
where's the compilation of him saying how much he hates liberals? Oh my God.
Well, it's weird because in the actual article, and I'll read it when we go through it because I'm going to jump. It's a long article, so I'm just going to read little bits of it. They say he's a socialist in the article. So it's
Right.
kind of crazy that buried in the article, the writer acknowledges he's a socialist, but here in the subtext, right in the beginning, it's he's outspokenly liberal.
Yeah, look, there's a huge compilation I've seen in some videos of him just saying how much he hates liberals and wants liberals
Yes.
to die and thinks liberals should
Yes.
be
Shot into the
killed in a
sun.
video game.
Right, right. Yeah. No, it's because after this article, Ethan attacked him for that, and people were posting these compilations. So it's just
Yes.
ridiculous. He's hot. Young men actually listen to him. Is he the answer Democrats are looking for?
Oh, ouch.
It.
Painful.
So this guy, Luke Winky,
Uh-huh.
Winicky. I don't know how to say his name. Well, actually, we should try to reach out. I am curious to talk to this guy. He wrote an article about, and I think he was part of the White Dudes for Harris campaign.
Really?
Yeah,
He put that together?
right. And he said, well, he didn't put it together, but he was part of it, or he wrote an article of it. And in the article, he's like, "We are cringe, but we are free." And I was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
Jesus Christ!"
Wow.
Also, and listen, I wonder if Luke here is gay because there are lots of the article is dedicated to talking about how hot Hassan is, which is strange, right? If you're going to talk about how he has like he's the audience, like he's a guy for the young men, the young male demographic. Like I don't think the young male demographic is interested in the fact that he's quote hot, right? If they're straight, that is.
Yeah, you want to cater to obviously to the 5% of the guys that are gay, right?
Yeah, I get that's why it's
They're like a
weird. I'm
huge
like,
voting coalition.
it's so weird because so much of the article is supposed to be like, is he going to be like the left, left Joe Rogan, right? And for the young men, and it's like, oh, he's so hot. And you're like, okay, buddy.
Yeah,
I don't
nobody's
think
just,
people who are watching like Moist Critical or Asmongold are like, oh my God, he's like so hot. That's why I'm watching him.
oh yeah, yeah, obviously.
And also, it's funny
Strange.
because if you if you look into like the coding of like what the original title was, which got changed, the original title was Donald Trump News, or like the subtitle of how the Slate categorized it. Donald Trump News: The president's greatest political threat may be hiding in plain sight. Hassan
What?
Piker. That's like we're insane.
My word.
Okay.
They so do this with people where they try and try and try to make this person a thing.
Right. Right. Okay. So let me jump around a bunch of the articles here, a bunch of parts of the article. So don't worry about trying to follow it where I'm going at them because you're not going to find it.
No, I'm on it.
Okay. So this
Try
part where it
me.
says, many young male liberals, supposedly an endangered species, have determined that the more tempered and polite avenues of left leaning media, the nightly slate of MSNBC, the endless punchlines of late night, leave them cold. Instead, they have found a common movement with this 33-year-old socialist dicking around on his computer.
That's hilarious.
Right, right.
That is hilarious. Yeah. Oh, he's not serious or anything. He's just dicking around.
No, no. Okay, so down they talk about how there is a problem. This guy does talk about how there is a problem with Hassan being like the Democrat champion because surprise, Hassan didn't endorse Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. So it's kind of hard for him to be the champion of the Democrats when he doesn't support any Democrats.
Right. He hates Democrats. He talks
Yes.
about it all the time.
Yes. Um, yeah, just one little problem with that. Piker didn't endorse Biden at the dawn of 2024 cycle. Then he didn't endorse Kamala Harris either. Resting on a sheathed samurai sword near the rear of his streaming setup is a MAGA hat. Piker wears it on rare occasions he approves of a Trump decision. I'm skeptical of that,
Well,
but okay.
yeah, when I've never
Yeah,
seen this.
right. On one recent occasion, he slipped it on when the incoming administration had a hand in brokering a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas.
Hmm.
I wonder how he felt after, the whole
After he
Trump.
said we were going to buy it?
Yeah, we're gonna ethnically cleanse the Palestinians and buy the region and, make it nice for
Right.
someone else,
Yeah, we're going to gentrify it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The greatest gentrification program in American history
Right.
taking place now on the Gaza Strip.
PIKER is pro-Palestinian liberation. It's interesting. Pro-immigrant, pro-trans, pro-choice, and unapologetically himself. Some of this has brought accusations of anti-Semitism and more, all of which he strongly denies, but has lately found PIKER in an uncharacteristically defensive posture. His take no prisoners approach makes everyone, but especially Democrats, uneasy. For a while, a staffer for AOC suggested the Congresswoman would give me a comment for this article on PIKER and the Democrats' future. I followed up repeatedly, only to be told that someone more senior would have to sign off, and the comment never came.
Wow. Okay, so AOC is having regrets about that stream with Hasan Piker now, it looks like.
Maybe.
What is it?
Maybe. Yeah.
You do you buy this unapologetically himself?
Fuck no.
Do you think that's
No.
the case?
The whole this author completely, and I don't know if this guy just like completely detached or whatever. He completely misunderstands. He keeps casting Hasan as like the renegade who speaks what's on his mind, when it's like, no, 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 no. You're insane. He's completely audience captured and terrified of his audience. And that's what's driving the ship of the Hasan string.
Yes. Yeah. He's not captured by, well, he's not loyal to any of these policy prescriptions at all. Like, he could be anti-trans at a moment's notice. He could be
If
pro-life
his
at a
audience was,
moment's notice.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
He also, the author really, he talks about the Houthi thing a little bit, but he doesn't really get into the terrorist support, of course. So
Right. Yeah. You think that Houthis pro-trans?
yeah, I
Think
don't think so.
pro-choice, pro-immigration?
No.
Yeah. The Houthi pirate is not
Shockingly.
pro-trans?
I know, right? The child soldier, not a pro-trans, They
Right.
only execute gay people. Here's the line that's funny from the article. Hasan Piker loves America.
No. Oh my God.
Or
Sacrilege.
or at least he can remember a time when he did.
Oh, okay, okay. There we go.
So I thought he was like, he doesn't
Some
even love it.
hedging there. Some
Yes.
hedging there.
Right, right.
When was
And
that time? Tell us in
well,
epic detail.
in the article, they talk about when he went to college.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because they kind of gloss over it. But originally, Hasan went to college at the University of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And then apparently he was doing so poorly and dicking around that his parents like pulled him back to wherever they lived. I think they lived near Rutgers or something. So they pulled him back to Rutgers to like force him to fucking study. That he's going to flunk out of college.
Wow. For real? Oh, man. This guy is such a dude, bro.
I know. It's ridiculous. In 2021, he purchased this house, the one that he and I are currently sitting in, for $2.7 million. It is undeniably lavish. 5 bedrooms and 5.5 bathrooms with high ceilings, polished countertops, hardwood floors, and a stately patio on the bank of a lap pool. Piker has made no effort to conceal the good life while I'm around. I spot on top of a pile of torn open envelopes splayed out in the kitchen a letter from Porsche. There's a parts recall for his car.
Oh my God.
Conservative, I love how this is framed. Conservative media loves to fetishize the material discrepancies of progressivism, so an avowed socialist buying up prime California restate was manna from heaven. I mean, it's true. Like, you could just frame it however you want. Like, oh, well, the conservatives like to talk about it. Yeah, but it's true. It's hypocritical.
Yeah, most people are not in favor of hypocrisy.
I know, shockingly. When news broke of Piker's new abode, Fox News opined about the hypocrisy. They put hypocrisy in quotes, by the way.
Oh, did they?
Yes. In the quote hypocrisy of a leftist living in an upper class luxury while Ben Shapiro took Piker to task on YouTube. $2.7 million is a lot of money. I don't see you handing that out to all of your illustrated workers in the Marxist social construct, Ben Shapiro said. You can get yourself a tiny little shack and live yourself the Henry David Thoreau lifestyle for probably about $30,000 somewhere.
That's a pretty good Shapiro, man.
Thank you.
You've been practicing.
I mean, I'm really only a couple notches away from him naturally, so I don't think it's that impressive. Uh, Piker wasn't phased though. Months later, he posted a video of himself at a car dealership purchasing that $200,000 Porsche.
Yeah, most people's fucking house is $200,000.
Can you imagine? Hasan Piker, the avowed socialist, bought a $200,000. I don't.
Can you imagine spending that much on a car?
I
A
can't. I can't.
car.
If I was a multimillionaire, I don't think I would. I would never spend $200,000 on a car. What? Like
Yeah.
that's what? I mean,
A
is a car like a
multimillionaire is
blowjob
not even.
machine that like comes out while I'm driving? Like, why is it so expensive?
Well, it is an aphrodisiac, obviously. So,
Well, I mean, maybe if you need it.
yeah.
But yeah, there you go. And
Sitch
also
is
those
like,
those like those
he
like
pulls
little
up in his Honda Accord.
right, exactly. Those little sports cars, like some of them they look cool, but they're annoying because usually they're like really small. So they don't even sometimes I don't know which car he has, but usually they don't have like a fucking back seat, which drives me crazy. Right? Because you're like, I got shit. I got people I want to transport. I got shit to transport. I don't have a fucking back seat. People got to climb over this. No, fuck that. Or they're so low to the ground that when if you ever driven one of those cars, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like taking a nap. I'm like, I'm trying to drive a car here. I'm not trying to take a nap. Like, I'm like, feel like I'm trying to pilot a rocket ship. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. Sports cars are notoriously uncomfortable. Look at this
Yes.
picture of him sitting with Hasan. He's doing the head cock that all those girls were doing to
Oh,
on
well,
the show with Jon Stewart. Yeah.
listen what I said, about him being gay, maybe, because he talks about all the he keeps
Is
talking
this
about how he's hot.
is Hasan Piker sucking on a lollipop in this picture too?
Maybe.
It looks like he might be. What's happening there?
Mm,
It's a little strange, right?
it's a little strange.
Head cocked. He was sucking on his lollipop.
He's like he knows that the author is into him, right? And he wants to get a good write up, so he's playing it up.
This is like Gamergate 2.0, huh?
Exactly. In response to Hasan buying this $200,000 car, he said, "Wait till they find out I'm never gonna fucking drive it." Uh,
What?
Okay.
He
I
bought
don't.
it as an investment?
I know. I guess he bought it as like a mantelpiece, which makes it even worse, right? It's weird. It makes it seem even worse and more like hypocritical.
Hmm. It's an investment. He's like, I can't buy stocks, so I buy rare cars.
Yeah. He said as a fresh wave of outraged MAGA acolytes filled his mentions, does a socialist reveling in his abundance expose a political contradiction? Perhaps. Perhaps. What do you mean, perhaps? Of course it does. But Piker has also correctly identified that in 2025, when Trump of the Manhattan penthouse can be twice enshrined as a working class hero, those contradictions are not nearly as relevant as they used to be. So he's saying it's okay for me to be a hypocrite because Donald Trump is rich, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Piker is a young, well, actually, and Trump isn't a hypocrite. I mean, you could say you don't trust him. You can make the argument you don't trust that he's going to do things for like the poor people because he's a rich elite himself. But he's not a hypocrite. Donald Trump has never been like anti-wealth. I mean, he's been so pro-wealth his entire life. So pro-opulent wealth.
Yeah,
Pike,
yeah, of course. Hypocrisy's the charge.
right?
He flaunts his wealth, right?
Yes.
Purposefully.
And I mean, Hasan is the one who's advocating for an economic system that would tear all these things down, make this stuff not possible for anyone, including himself. So
And
that's the
Trump is
hypocrisy.
advocating for a system that is good for everyone, that
Well,
can make everyone a
maybe.
billionaire.
Yeah. Piker is a young man responding to his enormous windfall in a way that is extremely relatable to other young men, that more than anyone else has proven to be invaluable to his cause. Well, first of all, his son's 33. I don't know if is that like when you say like, oh, he's just like a young guy, right? It makes it sound like he's like 20. Like, oh, he's just 20. He just has a bunch of money, doesn't know what to do. It's like, well, he's 33. Okay, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's an adult. Like, you can't be like, oh, he's just a young lad. Hasan. Oh, this is a quote from Taylor Lorenz. This is pretty funny. Hasan lives a super aspirational life. A lot of other men on the left don't have the same aspirational aesthetic to them. Taylor Lorenz, an author and journalist who covers internet culture, told me. There's a generation of young people who want to consume media from someone they look up to. They want to improve their lives. They want to imagine a better world for themselves. And a lot of people are selling that better future in a package that is hateful. I think Hasan sells them on a progressive future.
Wow.
So essentially, the argument is it's okay for Hasan to be a total hypocrite, to have a bunch of money, live in a big house, have a $200,000 car because, he's being a good role model. Being a socialist, terrorist supporting streamer who's a hypocrite is a good role model, according to Taylor Lorenz.
Right. Yes. And she's a trustworthy source.
Right. Piker's happy to meet MAGA men where they are. Quote, this is interesting. Quote, I give a lot of leeway to people for having somewhat bigoted views, he said without hesitation. It's okay, that's not true. It's a radically different strategy from liberal orthodoxy that for years balked at the idea of courting people who were too retrograde, too brain rotted by conspiracy, simply too far gone to be marbled into a larger political project.
God, he's mirroring Anna Kasparian now, even though this is completely against his norm.
This is probably like the most egregiously lie in the entire article, because this is completely backwards. This is completely insane. Hasan won't talk to other people, won't debate people. He's incredibly you just cut to the clips of him just screaming about how all these other people are just horrible racist bigots. Anyone who doesn't agree with him is evil, elitist, corporatist, racist, etc., etc. The idea that Hasan is giving people lots of leeway is fucking insane.
Yeah, that's his go-to move to get out of conversations with people. Yeah.
Yes. Right. He continues with this lie, and this Slate author just, gobbles it up. Maybe like something else he wants to gobble up. Quote, I think that's something a lot of political commentators lack in general, Piker said. They're not real human beings. What I do requires a tremendous amount of charitability from the audience. I speak in opposition on a lot of issues that people take for granted, issues that people have been socially conditioned to believe are the norm, and that the alternative is scary and dangerous. So people have to be open to hearing me out. It might make them more open-minded in my commentary and the way I see the world.
Wow. He pitches himself as a big risk taker here.
I know. Again, total lie, total exact opposite of reality. Hasan is hyper audience captured, constantly gets one guide in the chat because he's not far left enough sometimes.
Yeah.
Usually that's what's going on.
Yes.
And then he'll become that, further and further far left. That's what was crazy, because I remember when we covered it, when a lot of the stuff about, people were attacking Anna and Jank, Hasan was basically he said pretty explicitly that he sort of agrees with his uncle about the trans sports thing, but he doesn't want to talk about it because his audience will get mad at him.
Yeah.
We covered that stream.
So. Yeah, he's totally a big puss. And look, he's not going to stand up for any of these people either, which is totally demoralizing.
No. Right. Yeah, in this article, I'm not going to read it, but he goes through a lot of Hasan working at the Young Turks and all the other stuff. I mean, that's the big thing. That was, Anna's big contention with Hasan is his uncle basically gave him the opportunity to have a career in the first place where he's making all this money, and Hasan doesn't defend him at all. He doesn't defend the Young Turks at all.
Yeah. Thanksgiving is going to be weird next year, right?
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be all, just them arguing about stuff.
Maybe they've had enough time to let it go, but.
Okay. Now, this part of the article is hilarious. This is obviously not true. Last year, Hasan Piker briefly considered quitting his streaming career. He thought about, get this, he thought about going back to school and earning a PhD.
What? What? No way.
And what? I don't know how they don't ask. He doesn't ask in what. In what exactly were you going to get your PhD, sir? Okay. Earning a PhD insane. And never worrying about the scrutiny on his life or his politics. Piker began to feel this way after October 7th, an event that forced him and every other pundit to witness every day the escalating horrors of the war between Israel and Hamas. It is kind of it's like disgusting to me where it's like, oh, because of October 7th was so bad, Hasan decided to like he thought about stopping streaming. Like he wasn't personally affected by it. He didn't have family members get kidnapped. He didn't have family members get bombed. What the fuck's he talking about? Like, oh, it
Yeah.
was just so bad that I just decided I want to stop streaming.
He's trying to take the victimhood mantle.
And of course. They often put him in reedy territory. In one memorable instance, PIKER interviewed an alleged Houthi sympathizer. You like that? So
Oh, they're fucking totally simping for him.
I know we've gone from Houthi pirate to Houthi sympathizer to alleged Houthi sympathizer. Okay, it's not even. It's a how is he an alleged sympathizer, right? Even if that kid was not actually part of the Houthis, it's the most obvious fucking pro Houthi pirate person on the planet. What the
Yeah.
alleged? What the fuck are you talking about? Hiker asked him if he watched the long-running anime One Piece. The teenager nodded enthusiastically. That's all they say about that interview, by the way.
Of
Nothing else.
course.
Yes.
Yeah. They didn't mention the part where he said, if you see my knife, you're not going to live very long. They didn't
Yeah, it
bring that up.
doesn't go back until it has blood on it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And talks about the people being killed hostages and being forced to do drugs and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Doing drugs with his hostages. Nope.
Yes.
None of that's in the article. Wow.
The incident helped catapult Piker to the forefront of the American anti-Zionist movement. Last November, the New York congressman and Israel hawk, like how they frame that, Richie Torres, wrote an open letter called Hasan Piker is Dangerous, addressed to Twitch CEO Dan Clancy. Torres called Piker the poster child of a surge in anti-Semitism since October 7th, contending the streamer holds a deep-seated animus towards Jews. Quote, why is Twitch so untroubled by Hasan Piker's troubling Jew hatred, he wrote. If the KKK or the Third Reich were a social media platform, it would be Twitch. Well,
Go
good on
Richie
Richie Torres.
Torres.
Yes.
Yeah.
Piker was used to the routine drama of internet fame, but censure from an elected official was a different beast. Fox News, in a story published after the letter, outlined a lengthy taxonomy of Piker's take on Gaza. Among them, that sexual violence that occurred on October 7th didn't change the quote dynamic of the conflict for him, that Hamas was a lesser evil than the Israeli military. Meanwhile, Jonathan Greenblatt, head of the ADL, took to X and claimed Piker's toxic screed against the Jewish state normalizes bigotry and launders terror, imploring media companies to deplatform him. The controversy has started to affect Twitch's bottom line, as Bloomberg reported in December. A smattering of online forums, all associated with the Zionist streamer and infamous internet troll Stephen Destiny Bonnell.
Oh my God. They throw Destiny under the bus. Well, I'm starting
Listen,
to like this article, actually.
who has gotten to hot water for his usage of various slurs with a fucking link.
Oh my God. Oh shit.
Have canvassed companies to suspend their ad campaign with Twitch. So far, JP Morgan, AT&T, and Dunkin' Donuts have acquiesced.
Oh my God. Hasan gets away with everything.
I
And
know.
they're blaming all of the advertisers running away on Destiny.
Well, yes, and also like the way that they're framing Destiny 2 is hilarious. This Zionist, infamous internet troll who
Right.
uses various slurs.
That's
Okay.
infamous is usually how
Yes.
that's pronounced,
Right.
but
Right.
whom
You're right.
I can
Sorry.
barely read. So
Yes, infamous.
who am
But
I
just it's so ridiculous. Like if they said, notable sex pest Destiny, I'd be like, okay,
Oh
that's
my
fair, right?
God.
But they didn't. They're like for like infame. I mean, come on, let's be real. Infamous internet troll. I mean, I don't think anyone characterizes him as an internet
Infamous.
troll.
Infamous is
I know. I keep
different
saying
than
infamous. Yes,
infamous.
infamous. I don't know why. I mean, I don't think people characterize him as a troll. They characterize him as like a sex pest debate lord, hypocrite, but not a troll.
Infamous, known widely and usually unfavorably. So
Yes.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
So it is throwing him under the bus a bit. They're blaming the advertiser boycott on him.
Yeah.
Which aren't these more from Frogan and all the anti-Israel
Well,
stuff?
it was really Dan, I believe, that got all that stuff going. I mean, Dan is a Destiny orbiter, obviously, but they
I wonder
didn't.
what the slurs are.
Yeah. Well, there's the whole N-word debacle, I guess,
Oh yeah.
where he said it was okay to use the N-word in a debate. I mean, in a joke.
And
So for the first time in his career, Piker is under siege. He maintains that the quotes circulated by Fox News were cherry picked from the protracted monologues of his stream. As someone who has sampled the entirety of these broadcasts, okay, which are all far too self-reflexive to ever be reduced to a single talking point, I think that assertion is largely true. So the author's simping for Hasan there.
yeah, he's like, I'm a regular viewer. I watch all the time, every day. I didn't have time to watch this article because I watched Hasan's stream for 13 hours today.
Then then they have this quote. It's funny because in the beginning, there's like Hasan remembers a time where he liked America, and this final
Oh
quote from
yeah, where's
Hasan,
that?
yeah, this final quote from Hasan, quote, America sucks. And as a nation that sucks, we're gonna have a president that sucks. He growled, visibly more despondent than usual. Democrats sold the country off. We're an embarrassing country, and I think that even Trump supporters are somewhat aware of the demise. So there you go.
Sad.
There's your cringe Slate article on Hasan.
Wow.
Okay.
Very sad. Very sad.
Very sad.
Do you agree with that? You think Trump supported? I mean, they're MAGA. Their mantras make America great again. So yeah.
No, I think unless something, I think people aren't going to really be able to have a holistic view of Trump, whether it's positive or negative, until a couple years past.
Until it's all said and done.
Right, they're going to have to see how things play out because
Let him
I mean,
cook.
you could have a situation where, yeah, let him cook. It's funny because I told you that
Yeah.
Sammy was like, whenever I talk about Trump or Elon, she's like, just let him cook, Sitch, let him cook. So I asked Grok because there's like a new Grok just came out. I asked Grok to make a picture of this. I sent to you if you want to bring it up.
Oh wow. Holy cow. You
Yeah.
have Grok now?
Doesn't everyone have Grok?
Oh, maybe
I
I
just went
have
on my
Grok
phone
and
and I
I
hit
don't know.
Grok and it said Grok 3 was available. I'm
Okay.
assuming it's a new one.
When Grok first came out, I thought it was pay only. So I guess I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
have Grok, but maybe Grok exists now for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So what? This is a great picture.
I
What did
asked
you
Grok to make a picture for me.
What did
So
you ask him to make before I bring the picture up?
I said, I'm trying to remember, something like, can make me a picture of Donald Trump and Elon cooking in a kitchen, but everything's on fire. And
Oh,
at first
okay.
it kind of sucked. I had to keep prompting it to get
So
it
you
to,
so you asked for everything to be on fire. Okay.
yes. But then I
It
had to,
would be much funnier if you just said, "Show me a picture of Elon and Trump cooking," and
well,
this is what it spit
no,
out.
no, 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 that didn't happen. But no, and I had to actually keep prompting because at first it was like really sparse with the fire. I had to be like, more fire, give me more fire. Damn it. Everything is in chaos. And it's funny, like the little Grok name for it was like culinary chaos, Trump and Elon. So
This is the chaos.
so I'm gonna send this to Sammy every time she says, Sitch, let them cook. I'm just gonna bring up the Sammy picture.
Here's them
They're
cooking.
cooking. They're cooking. Okay, look, it's cooking. But I know
God, it's so
to
horrible.
to answer your question, I mean, I think it's going to be. I think people are going to need to look back because obviously, you could have a situation where maybe things with Israel works out, maybe things with Ukraine and Russia works out, maybe the economy stays good. And if that's the case, everyone's going to look back and say, oh, look, everything worked out. All those cuts to all those government agencies were fine. Turns out we didn't need them, right? Or you could have everything fucking completely falls apart over the next 2 to 3 years, and people look back and say, oh, that was a total fucking clusterfuck. So who knows? That's what I'm saying. I don't. I think it's gonna be hard to tell until you can look back and see what happens.
Yeah, I wonder what's going to happen to the market because I do think Trump would bend over backwards to make sure the market doesn't collapse on him.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's always going to be a constant pressure as he's wheeling and dealing. I don't think Elon Musk gives two turtle shits about the market. Like if the market crashes, Elon Musk is just going to keep on keeping on,
Right.
like
Right.
doing whatever he thinks is right. But Trump is going to be like, oh my God, the market is cratering. Maybe he won't care because it's his second term,
I
and
think he'll
he's
care
not worried about
because
being
it.
reelected.
Well, I mean, as you said, part in our debate about whether Trump was going to run again, your whole point was Trump wants the status and legacy of being the two-term president. And he doesn't want to go out like George W. Bush, where people have like this negative opinion of him after
Yeah,
the
and he's
fact, right?
never allowed to even be at the he wants to speak at the Republican National Convention every single year or every single 4 years for the rest of his life.
Right,
He
right.
wants to
Yeah.
always come in as the kingmaker, the
The
big
big
dog.
dog.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
exactly. Right. So no, I think he will 100% care about the economy and the direction the country goes because he wants to end his term with a good legacy.
Right.
And I mean, I'm worried, and I didn't, I'm worried. We talked about this briefly, but it was like, Warren Buffett has been pulling out, you know, millions, billions of dollars, I guess. He's been pulling out billions of dollars over the last 2 to 3 years, out of stocks and just shoving them into short-term treasuries because he's pretty convinced the stock market's going to collapse at some point.
But this has nothing to do. This really has nothing to do with Trump or really policy in general. He just
No,
thinks
not
the
at
market
all.
is
Not
completely
at all. What?
overvalued.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
which
Yeah, so but
I completely agree with. Like
right.
I keep waiting. I mean, I've been accumulating cash over the same period of time to basically just I'm mystified by how the market keeps going higher and higher and higher. Yeah.
Right. But see, that's the real, I think the real threat for Trump is that there could be some massive economic downturn or correction, as they say, or collapse or something, has nothing, and it could have nothing to do with anything he's done, right? But it doesn't matter because people always blame the president for the economy,
Of
regardless of
course.
whether it's fair or not.
Of
So,
course. George W. Bush got the blame
right.
for the
Yeah.
entire housing
For
collapse
the
when
housing collapse, which is obviously something that had been kind of building for 20 years. So,
yeah.
you know. So yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the big pitfall for Trump to watch out for is if, well, I think the big pitfalls are if the economy goes south, nothing that would really have anything to do with him, or if something that they're cutting ends up having some actual like damaging effects that people can see in the 2 to 3 year time, and start pointing at him. So,
Right.
so
I
we'll
knew
see.
this I knew this was going to happen. You were going to get the TDS accusation over this graphic, which I think is
That's a joke. I mean,
I think that's
it's
completely
funny.
unfair. Come on,
It's
he's
funny.
having fun
I'm having.
like arguing with his girlfriend. Let
That's
him
right.
cook, let him have fun.
There
Jesus,
you go.
okay?
Yes.
Like Sitch is constantly praising Trump where Trump deserves praise. So, I mean this Ukraine, I think we're going to talk about Ukraine next, right? I mean,
We
this
are. Yeah.
Ukraine conversation, I think, is going to be, well, I don't know. I mean, I've been hearing arguments on both sides of the Ukraine thing. Obviously, I think your gut intuition and my gut intuition were probably identical when I saw the tweets that Trump put out. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God. Here we go again, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I was thinking about this before the show, and God, people really want. We're in a much different place than most people in our audience on the Ukraine thing because most people do have that Ukraine is taking us for a ride mentality. I think that's not the case at all. I think obviously what Russia did was terrible, and that if we lose in Ukraine, Russia could easily invade other countries. So I do
Mm-hmm.
think this could get much worse. So, but the foreign policy exchange via tweet, I mean, it's a weird thing to get your head around. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
what?
had a really negative reaction to the tweet at first, but then,
Mhm.
it's interesting because yesterday and today, I was trying to like go back into the timeline of the last week or so to see where the breakdown started to occur. And it's actually so helpful to just, and I wish more media would do this to kind of break down to have the timeline to show you the interaction between Trump and Zelensky, to show you like kind of why things are going the direction they're going. Because I was reading the tweet and I was speculating. I couldn't really figure out why the tweet was the way it was. And but I'll talk about it in a second.
Well,
Let me read the super chats here.
Zelensky famously was involved in the first Trump impeachment.
Yes.
Trump asked Zelensky to open up an investigation, a corruption investigation on Hunter and Joe Biden.
Well, into he wanted to announce investigations into Burisma, which
Right.
would
Yes.
enable Trump to talk about the Hunter connection. So
Which Zelensky ultimately did make the announcement,
well,
which made me think, holy shit, Trump is completely throwing this guy under the bus when, I mean, he fucking went to bat for him.
well, I think actually, unless I'm mistaken, I don't. I think he was going to. He was
Mm-hmm.
about to, and then when Trump got in all the hot water for the quote perfect phone call, they basically gave Zelensky the money and they told him to not make the announcement, and then he didn't.
Okay, so he didn't
Well,
actually make the
he was
announcement.
going to.
He
He was
planned
about
on
to.
making the announcement,
Yes,
but
he
he
was
actually
about
didn't
to.
follow through with
Right.
it. Okay, I thought he
And he was
actually
going to
made
make the
the
announcement
announcement.
on CNN on I think Fareed Zakari's show,
No
and then they
way.
canceled at the last minute.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so
Holy shit.
but that's why and I've always because it's weird because I hear people say like, "Oh, Trump's mad at Zelensky for the first impeachment," and I'm like, why? Like Zelensky did everything Trump wanted and he's never turned on Trump for any of that stuff. So I think people are misreading the situation when they bring up that thing because I
Yeah.
don't yeah I think Trump has I think that's part of why Trump at least at first until recently wasn't very he was kind of trying to be tightrope walk on Zelensky because so many people in the pundit space of MAGA are like so like viscerally virulently anti Zelensky. It's kind of interesting.
Well, I think they are because the Democrats and Joe Biden supported Zelensky so
You're
vocally.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
I think a lot of it's just I think and we talked about this like years ago once this all started. Like, I understand the idea of, and I think it's logical, the idea of not wanting your money to go there, not wanting to start nuclear war and all these other things. I think that's all kind of reasonable. But I do think a lot of the emotional intuitions outside of that logic sort of got fed by, well, if everyone on the left in the mainstream is supporting Zelensky, then they must be wrong.
right.
Right? You just have to kind of take the opposite. Because remember at the time that the war started, there was like a bajillion memes that were, the NPC meme, and they would pull
Oh,
out,
yeah. The new
you know,
download.
yeah, the new download was to support, Zelensky. And so so
They
many
pull
people
out the
just
COVID
became
chip and they put in the
the Zelensky chip.
Ukraine chip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so I think so many people just became like completely reactionary against the whole thing. And then they would want to look into information. They would kind of like basically believe information, I would say uncritically, about how, Zelensky is the most evil person on the planet. And for some reason, we just ignore everything horrible that Putin does. So, but
Well, you agree that what is preventing the war from ending tomorrow is Vladimir Putin, correct?
well, obviously, I mean, he could just
Yeah,
say, okay, we're just
exactly.
going to stop. Like, right. Like,
I mean,
obviously, he could just
this is the
not
same
do it,
argument with Hamas and Israel,
Yes.
right?
Hamas could just stop. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Israel's not going to go after them. If like
well,
the war ends, it
right.
ends.
And actually, it would have actually created a huge problem for Bibi Netanyahu if Hamas had surrendered because he didn't want Hamas to surrendered because he wanted to, probably purge the
He
area of
wants the
all
land, yeah.
Palestinians. Right. If Hamas had surrendered like a month after the war, then he would have been like, oh shit, because he wouldn't really have the justification to keep doing the war. So
Right.
it's the same thing with Russia. And now you can make the argument that, well, like can Putin just surrender because obviously he's like a dictator and he has his own internal pressures where if he just stops the war without getting anything from it, will he be able to maintain his own domestic coalition of power? Right. Which maybe not. But in terms of like the moral component, obviously Putin is 100% in the wrong. He could just stop the war. So,
Yeah. How do you get him to do that? That's the
right.
question.
Right. But hold on, let me read some super chats. And I want to go through the timeline because once I looked at the timeline between Trump and Zelensky, it kind of brought the tweet into a new light than I think
Okay,
most
good.
people are sort of looking
Good,
at.
good. That's what I want to hear.
Dr. Smoothbrain, thanks so much for 10 months, says, what is the Trump coin to free will conversion rate? Just asking for a friend.
I mean, Sitch
Well,
and I are really big into Melania coin.
oh, really?
That's where
Okay.
we put our life savings. So
That was crazy that the guy that was involved in the Libra
I know.
Malay crypto maybe scam rug pull thing was also involved in the Melania coin. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah, yeah. And he also said that there was a big dinner in Washington, D.C. that Trump was at, that they all let everyone at the dinner buy into Trump and Melania coins before they launched,
Of course, yeah,
which is just,
not great. That's
hmm,
not good. Seems corrupt. There was if you haven't seen it, CoffeeZilla did a very good video, and he also had a long
interview.
interview
Yeah.
with the guy on his second channel, Voidzilla, where they talk about all this stuff, which is pretty fascinating.
Who's trying to prevent himself from getting killed by
Well, he
someone who lost their
by
life
someone,
savings. Who does
right?
that? Who's like, oh my God, this is it. Trump coin. I'm betting the farm.
Well, I thought he was worried about like the Argentinian government sending a hit squad or something to
Yeah, yeah,
him.
yeah. But yes, obviously. Yeah.
So
That's what he's thinking of.
Malay's gonna kill him. Noel screaming to the void for $2 says Hasan's audience captured by 12-year-olds is pure karma. That is true.
Yes.
Amoeba Sheep for 50 knock knock says, how much would I have to pay to have Adam read the child's book, Go the Fuck to Sleep on stream or in a video? I need it.
I mean, I'd have to look at the book. Is it like, are you trying to get me to read pedo shit?
No, no, no,
Also?
no. It's like Go the Fuck to Sleep. It's like a famous like
Oh.
parody of a kid's book
Oh, okay.
about like, you're trying to get your kid to fucking go to sleep.
I mean, if it's cool, sure.
Okay, look at
I'll look
that.
at it. Amoeba Sheep has been leaving a lot of great comments on our videos, so thanks for contributing.
Look at that.
Look, look. The worst comments are the ones that are like, Adam sucks. It's like, what the fuck do you do? What do you do with that?
I know, right? Yeah,
We're trying to make the show better, okay?
right,
Give me a little something to work with here.
right. Luke W for $10 says, just read the comic yesterday and I really enjoyed it. Look at
Okay,
that.
thanks.
Look
Look,
at
that's
that.
awesome. This might be the first feedback on the story that we're getting. And look, we want to do a live stream once everyone has their comics and people have had a chance to read them. We might do a call-in stream where we invite you guys on to talk about it. You can give us some feedback on the story. That'd
The
be
only
fun.
criticism I would give, the only criticism I'd
Uh-oh.
give is that the transitions between panels is a bit jarring on occasion, but
Mm-hmm.
overall it was a very fun read.
Yeah, that we had a lot of story that we wanted to fit into 48 pages. So, but let's not go too deep into it now because we want to do a full stream on the comic. So,
Right.
but
But thank you.
we will talk about it in great depth and detail for all of you guys.
The
So
trials and
a
tribulations.
lot of people
Yes.
are asking, a lot of people want us to talk about it. A lot of people I think want to do their own comics, so they want some insight from us. So we
Right.
will do it. But thanks. I'm glad you liked it overall. So
Okay,
good
for 8
show.
months says, I knew the West had fallen after Cambridge invited Hasan to speak as their distinguished guest. Yeah, it was very sad.
Hmm.
Crack
Oh
Rock
yeah,
Steady,
yeah,
thanks
yeah.
so. I know.
That was tragic.
Crack Rock Steady, our favorite Ninja Turtle supervillain for 35 months of Discipline Equals Freedom. Thank you so much. Says, the comic finally arrived yesterday. Fully appreciate it, and I'm glad I got all the variants. While I do like both sides, S Class does come out on top with Bob's and Vagine. Step up, A Team. There you go. Well, it's funny because originally when Adam, promoted that idea or came up with, he's the one that came up with that idea for the
I
S Class
did. Yeah,
cover,
exactly.
and I originally didn't want to do it, and he talked me into it. So
Yes.
there you go.
42 nice, attractive women on the cover. Come on, you can't go
Right.
wrong. And you'll be surprised to know that the nude variant outsold both of our variant covers
Why would that be surprising?
by like a country mile.
Why would that be even remotely surprising?
I know it's not. I'm
Yeah.
being sarcastic.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
El Caliso, thanks so much for the $5. Or El Caliso. Death by Sloth for 35 months. Thanks so much. Says for 6 long years, other fans have come and gone, but yet the sloth remains. Oh, look at
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Ever waiting the perfect opportunity to strike. Cheers, gentlemen. Well, thank you.
I think
Thank you.
I think so. I gave a special thank you to all you guys who've been members of the channel. I think I might have cut it off at like only 6 months or more membership. I'm not
Mhm.
sure. I can't remember, but there's a bunch of you guys in the back. I know Crack Rock Steady's in there. I know Death by Sloth is in there. Ostracy's in there. J Mac is obviously in there. I think
Right.
J Mac might be first. So
Ostracy for $2 says Adam does indeed suck.
oh look. That means a lot coming from you, Ostracy.
Terrible, terrible. JMac for $50. Thanks so much to Circuit Fire Daddy. JMac for $50 says my extensive review is still coming. Stay tuned. Well, thank you. We
Nice.
look forward to it.
Yes.
Yes.
Should be fun.
Okay. Now let's get into the timeline here. Okay. So
Okay.
So I started to investigate sort of the timeline of the breakdown of all the Trump Ukraine stuff because it was interesting. And it actually did change because I put a tweet out about the by Trump's Truth Social post, but going to the timeline later yesterday and today did change my feelings on Trump's tweet. So I do have a different take now.
So you're more receptive to the counter argument that this is like an intelligent move?
No, not in terms of like what, because at first I just didn't understand what the point of the tweet was because the Trump Truth Social post, because and this is what I put in my tweet, for a month, we've essentially had Trump come out and he would say like, oh, maybe we're going to take the Panama Canal by force. Maybe we're going to take Greenland by force. Maybe we're going to throw massive tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Like he'd come out with these very extreme opening attacks or gambits or bids, whatever you want to call it. And people would always say, well, that's Trump's negotiation tactic. He always comes out with something very extreme at first, and then he'll walk it back. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And I'd heard that, and I'd think,
again.
right. And I think, okay, that like makes sense. Like there's a logic to that. He's definitely doing it repeatedly and definitely did things like that in his first term. So I kind of like bought into that. And then I saw his Truth Social posts, and I would look at it and I'm like, okay, he's not doing anything like that to Russia. He's not doing any sort of like extreme ass to Russia whatsoever. He seems to be attacking Ukraine and rolling over for Russia. And I'm like, what's the why? Like, what is the strategy here exactly? So, but let me get into the timeline and then we'll discuss it. So in February 3rd of this year, Trump publicly stated that he wanted a mineral deal with Ukraine to continue to support the war effort. Okay.
Okay, mineral deal.
Yes. So then 4 days later, on the 7th, Zelensky publicly talked about a mineral deal that Ukraine had come up with. So Ukraine was receptive. So Trump publicly calls for a mineral deal. Zelensky's receptive to it. And he says that him and the government of Ukraine is coming up with some kind of mineral deal that they're going to try to basically sell to Trump to say, you should continue to support us and we'll let you have some amount of our minerals. Right.
Wow. Okay. Democrats would never go this route at all, remotely.
Or they would do it, behind the closed doors, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then on the 11th, Trump publicly said, quote, they, Ukraine, may make a deal. They may not make a deal. They may be Russia someday, or they may not be Russia someday.
Oh my God. I missed this.
Yeah, I missed all this too. So this is very obviously all like negotiation talk for the deal, right? The middle there is like, maybe you'll be Russia, maybe not. Depends if you give me some minerals, right?
Yeah, your mineral offer looks a little light to me. That's what that tweet says.
Right. I believe this is before the U.S. looked at the deal yet, though. So but this is like preemptive.
Oh, it better be good.
Yeah. Trump said he stressed that he also wanted to see a return on investment with U.S. aid for Ukraine, again floating the idea of trade for Kyiv's rare earth minerals. Trump repeated his interest in reaping a return on U.S. assistance, saying, quote, they have tremendous valuable land in terms of raw earth, in terms of oil and gas, in terms of other things. I want to have our money secured. I told them I want the equivalent, like $500 billion of rare earth, and they've essentially agreed to do that. So at least we don't feel stupid. Otherwise, we're stupid, I said to them. We have to get something. We can't continue to pay this money.
So this is how Trump can actually pitch this deal to his base. He can pitch it as an investment, a good deal for America. We're not just saving Ukraine. We're basically doing it to get some economic advantage in the world.
Yes.
It's funny because, I mean, this is why Putin invaded Ukraine. We said this years ago when he did invade Ukraine. He wants the resources. He wants the oil. He wants the port.
He wants the minerals. He wants the gas. He wants the ports. He also, I think, is afraid of, he doesn't want to have this country that Russia is always viewed as like their baby brother to become more westernized, probably out of fear that that makes Russia look bad. It could spread cultural influence to Russia. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Like if we had communists on our doorstep, we'd be thinking twice about that as well.
right, right.
If well,
Even though they
communism
have, I
has
mean,
never been successful, but
Russia does share a border with a bunch of other countries that are literally in NATO and
Finland.
Western. Right,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so it's not. And then obviously their whole thing, the whole NATO thing seems to me is always wrong, untrue because Ukraine wasn't going to join NATO, and the whole thing started because Ukraine wanted to join the EU, which is not anything to do with NATO, and that's really
Hmm.
what started the whole conflict. Okay, so but also to be to take from that quote on the 11th, Trump says Ukraine has essentially agreed to do the deal, the $500 billion deal. So at least on the 11th, it seems like things were going in a favorable direction, right?
This is February 11th?
This is February 11th.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
this month.
It's like shit. Okay.
Right. Okay. So then the next day on the 12th, Trump has a long phone call with Zelensky after talking to Putin. So Trump has a phone call or a conversation with Putin, and then afterwards he has a long phone call with Zelensky.
Wow. So he really is like trying to broker a deal here. This is crazy.
Yes, yes. Uh, Trump says, quote, I just spoke to President Zelensky. The conversation went very well. He, like President Putin, wants to make peace. We discuss a variety of topics having to do with war, but mostly the meeting that is being set up on Friday in Munich with Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio will lead the delegation, Trump wrote. I'm just hopeful the results of the meeting will be positive. It is time to stop this ridiculous war where there has been massive and totally unnecessary death and destruction, he added. Edrier Yermak, head of the president's office in Ukraine, said Zelensky and Trump agreed the teams, or no, maybe it's just the head of the U.S. president's office, excuse me, said Zelensky and Trump agreed the teams would immediately begin work to end the war. Trump also told Zelensky that he understands his concerns about him talking to Putin, but stressed there's no way around it if he wants his diplomatic efforts to be successful. So before the call, Zelensky had expressed concerns about Trump speaking with Putin before talking to Zelensky.
Right. Yeah. Which
Trump
makes
said,
sense, obviously.
right. And Trump acknowledged those concerns and said, I need to talk to Putin in order to save Ukraine, Trump told Zelensky. Zelensky replied that he still wants a deal, but he thinks Putin is just telling Trump what he wants to hear. He said, quote, Putin told you he wants a deal only because he's afraid of you because you are strong, Zelensky told Trump. Trump told the Ukrainian president that he could be right, but his impression was Putin is serious. We will know soon, Trump added.
Mm.
So, so this is on the 12th. So seems like their conversation went well, right? Seems like it went okay. Both sides seem to be, positive about the conversation up until that point.
Both sides being Putin and Trump or
Putin
Putin.
and Trump and Zelensky.
Right. Okay.
So okay,
Do we know
Matt,
anything about the Putin conversation, or is that just cards tied to the chest?
there's some things, but it's all like it's like anonymous source makes claim X, right?
Right. After the conversation, he didn't come out and blast Putin. He came out and blasted Zelensky, right?
Well, not yet. So that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this is the 12th. They had this positive interaction, but then we start to get into the problems because Pete Hegseth enters into the scene.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about this.
Yes. And Pete Hegseth gives a speech at the Ukraine Defense Contract Group where he states that Ukraine will not join NATO and that Ukraine will not go back to the 2014 borders, and that any defense guarantees going forward by Ukraine should be handled by Europe. And if they are attacked, they would not expect to be defended by Article 5 of NATO, which means that if any NATO country was supplying, troops to patrol the borders of Ukraine, that if they're attacked, it wouldn't actually trigger a NATO response or something. So,
And does Trump immediately regret nominating this guy?
right, which, people rightfully said, like, holy shit, Pete Hegseth, are you like the dumbest fucking person on the planet? Because these are all like
negotiation chips. Yeah.
right. These are all chips for negotiation. If you want to try to force Russia to have some sort of agreement, you can't just concede to all these things off the top of the before you even negotiate. These got to be things that you put into the negotiation. Say, oh, I don't know, maybe Ukraine will join NATO, and then after you make some agreement, that you're probably not going to have Ukraine join NATO, but then you say, okay, if you agree to do X, we won't have Ukraine join NATO, right? Why would you just give these like massive points up for free for no fucking reason?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe a little day drinking. Is that why the day drinking charges came out? Because he
I
made
mean,
this
I
horrible
believe it.
fucking shit.
I believe. Listen. I defended him. I said I think he's drinking water, but now I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe he's not drinking one.
I think Trump supported him after this too, which was like, oh my god, this is like
Yeah,
firing offense.
Trump did make a comment about the NATO thing, agreeing with it. So, but this is the height of incompetence. This
It
is
is,
so
yeah.
incompetent. In this year, like this is actually, I think Trump would have immediately fired if it wouldn't look so bad for Trump, because obviously Pete Hegseth was a controversial pick that Trump wanted. And so that's kind of defending Pete. If that wasn't the case, I think he would have immediately fired Pete, because this is so fucking stupid. This is just insanely stupid.
And obviously, like blatantly stupid. Everyone can
Yes.
see how
Yes.
stupid it is. Yeah.
Yes. How, like, I don't even know. And it's weird because this was prepared remarks. So that means presumably he had someone help write. Like, who the fuck? How does this happen?
Yeah, that's the worst part about it is it just makes
Yes.
everyone look dumb.
Right. Really bad. Okay. So that's like kind of the first notch of like conflict starting was them. Okay. The next day, on the 13th, Trump and Zelensky have another phone call. And Zelensky emphasized that Kiev was not proposing to give away its resources, but offering a mutually beneficial partnership to develop them jointly. He said, quote, the Americans help the most, and therefore Americans should earn the most, and that they should have this priority, and they will. I would also like to talk about this with President Trump. So you have on the 13th, even after the Pete Hegseth comment, Zelensky is saying that he thinks it's fair for America to actually get the most out of the resources. So he's not. So
Right.
he's amenable to the concept. He's not against the idea.
Zelensky is.
Zelensky is, yes.
Yep.
I saw a lot of people saying Zelensky was balking at the idea, but they're mistaken. In addition, Zelensky said that Kiev and the White House were discussing the idea of using Ukraine's vast underground gas shortage sites to store U.S. liquefied natural gas. I know the Trump administration is very interested in it. We're ready and willing to have contracts for LNG supplies to Ukraine, and of course, we will be a hub for the whole of Europe. Zelensky said.
Wow.
Right.
So we can basically, we can be the gas station over there.
Right.
Fuck
Right.
Russia.
Right.
Buy
Yes.
our liquefied natural gas.
The Ukraine leader said it was essential that he meet Trump in person before the US president meets Russian President Vladimir Putin. Otherwise, it'll look like a dialogue about Ukraine without Ukraine. So you already had the situation where Zelensky wanted to talk to Trump before he talked to Putin. That didn't happen. Now he wants to meet with Trump before Trump meets with Putin, which,
Right.
spoiler warning, doesn't happen. So that also causes conflict down the road. Trump said on Friday that he expected to talk to Zelensky next week. Zelensky said his own priority would be raising Ukraine's need for security guarantees as part of any deal to prevent Russia from launching another invasion in the future. He also told journalists that Ukraine will not be able to accept any agreements made without Ukraine's involvement. It was vital, he said, that everything does not go according to Putin's plan, in which he wants to do everything to make his negotiations bilateral. So that's another big thing that Zelensky's really worried about, is he really doesn't want basically Trump and Putin to hammer out some deal without him in the mix.
Right. He doesn't want him to come back with a deal that's like completely horrible.
Right.
Well, and also it has the vibe of, we're dictating terms to you if
Yes.
he's not in the
Yes.
room. Yeah.
Right. Well, and also, not only does it have that vibe, but then also from Zelensky's own standpoint, like, he has to look like he's doing what's best for his country for his own purposes, right? Just as Putin has his own political power base to worry about, Zelensky has his own political power base to worry about. And he needs to look like, if he wants to retain power, he needs to look like, oh, like I was in some deal with, Putin and Trump and we came up with something good, not just, oh,
He's
they forced me to take this deal and Ukraine has to suffer now.
regardless of what Trump says, the elections are coming after this conflict is over. He's
Right.
going to sell
Right.
something back to his base.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zelensky does.
Yes. Okay, so the next day on the 14th of February, Zelensky was hoping to meet with Trump, but is instead given a meeting with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. who is presenting him with their mineral deal. So Ukraine, I said a few days earlier, they came up with the mineral deal. America had looked at it. The Trump team had looked at it, and now they're like, here's our counter deal, essentially, that they're giving back to Zelensky on the 14th.
And the Treasury Secretary is doing that. Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
is funny, kind of. This is Treasury
Yeah, I'm
Secretary.
just like, okay.
Kind of
The
kind of
Treasury
very
Secretary wheeling and dealing.
kind of on the nose. Was it a little too on the nose there? It's kind of interesting. The Trump administration has suggested to Ukraine that the United States be granted 50% ownership of the country's rare earth minerals and signal an openness to deploying American troops there to guard them if there's a deal with Russia to end the war, according to 4 U.S. officials. Well, that's kind of interesting.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my God. We're putting troops into Ukraine.
that would be very interesting. Yeah.
Oh God. He
Rather
would have
than,
never said that before the election.
no, no. Rather than pay for the minerals, the ownership agreement would be a way for Ukraine to reimburse the U.S. for the billions of dollars in weapons support it provided to Kiev since the war began in February of 2022, two of the officials said. So essentially, and this is kind of interesting too, because I was looking at the articles, they're not like, it sounds like they're saying that the U.S. government gets the minerals, not like U.S. private companies. And the U.S. government is going to basically get 50% ownership of the minerals for free, essentially, for all the previous support that we've given Ukraine.
How, I mean, what is Ukraine going to do? I mean, isn't that a huge part of their economy?
Um,
All of a
I
sudden they
don't
got
think
no
so.
income.
I don't think so. Because I think I believe most of it is
They're
undeveloped.
undeveloped? Okay.
Yeah, and I
Okay, that makes
believe
sense.
a lot of Ukraine, because Ukraine has a lot of oil that is also undeveloped currently too.
Well, they
So
supposedly have a huge agricultural market as well. So,
yes, yeah, yeah. So I think that's actually why Zelensky at first was very probably in favor of this deal because it would make sense. It's like, okay, like we want to obviously have peace with Russia. We want security guarantees with Russia. We have a bunch of undeveloped resources that we weren't making money from. We'll be happy to give you half of that in exchange for peace and the development of these minerals. Like it's just
right.
basically a net gain for Ukraine at that point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent presented the proposal for the U.S. to own half of Ukraine's rare minerals to President Zelensky in a draft contract he brought to their meeting on Wednesday. So this is he gives it to Zelensky. Asked by reporters what's the problem with the U.S. documents, Zelensky said in his most candid comments to date, "It's not in our interest today, not in the interest of a sovereign Ukraine. There are not very concrete things about security guarantees in this document. That for me is very important. The connection between some kind of security guarantees and some kind of investment. Zelensky's team has placed high importance on the need for Ukraine to receive guarantees from the U.S. that would deter Russia from launching a new invasion once a peace deal is reached." Zelensky declined to sign the document when Bessent presented it during the meeting, saying he needed to study it and consult about it. 8 U.S.
Wow. They
officials
tried to get
briefed
him
on
to
the meeting
sign on the
said.
line immediately.
Yes.
Strong
One of
arm
the
tactics here.
Oh yeah. One of the source I'm glad you got that. One of the sources said the document contained no security guarantees. Quote, he felt like he was being asked unreasonably to sign something he hadn't had a chance to read. Someone on the condition of anonymity said, I don't think he appreciated being given a take it or leave it thing.
Who would?
Right. Zelensky discussed his own proposal for a mineral deal with the United States, the sources said, saying it was drafted to comply with the Ukrainian constitution. Two sources characterized the proposal delivery by Bessent as one-sided, but declined to opt to elaborate. Quote, our teams will continue to work on the document, Zelensky said on X, adding that he had a good meeting with Vance in Kiev and was ready to move towards as quick as possible towards a real and guaranteed peace. So it sounds like from what this meeting was that, again, the Bessent basically came in, as you said, and tried to strong arm Zelensky to sign on the dotted line, like then and there on this deal, which is pretty crazy. You're talking about like some kind of complicated peace deal that your country's been in a war for. And he's like, can I read it? Can I take it to the Congress and can we look at it? And they're like, no, you need to sign it right now. And so they declined to sign it. And also the big concern was supposedly that there was a lack of security guarantee, which seems to be Zelensky's big thing here.
Yeah, the lengthy back and forth process just when you buy a business or a house or anything is, I mean, this is crazy by comparison. And this is so much more, such a bigger deal, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, but again, it seems like, and so I was saying people that were saying that it was some sort of money thing from Ukraine. I think they're misunderstanding. Like some of the articles wrote it that way, but if you actually read it, whenever Zelensky talked about the deal that his big problem was the security guarantees, like
Yeah,
what he viewed as a
exactly.
lack of security guarantees. Okay,
That's the threat.
right. Then the same day, JD Vance gives a speech at Munich that kind of triggered everyone in Europe a lot. I
Right.
don't know if like I don't know if I want to talk about it. That's probably
This was on
its
the free
own
speech topic, right?
yeah, its own other thing where he was kind of attacking Europe for not being pro free speech. A lot of people have kind of gone back and forth about is this the end of like the American European transatlantic alliance, blah 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 blah. I don't know enough about it to
Never.
really to weigh in that
Bullshit.
strongly on it, so I don't know. But and then after that, Vance talked to Zelensky after that.
Right. How did that go? Any reporting?
There's some reporting. Well, Zelensky said he thought it went good. Um, and then Vance, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal after that meeting, said that the U.S. would hit Moscow with sanctions and potential military action if Putin wouldn't agree to a peace deal with Ukraine that guaranteed Ukraine's long-term independence.
I mean, we've been hitting them with sanctions for 3 years, and they've found ways around them. What are more sanctions going to do?
Right. But there was something interesting. It said, and potential military action.
Okay, well, that's
That's pretty
different.
interesting. Right. The warning that military options remain on the table was striking language from a Trump administration that repeatedly underscored a desire to quickly end the war. So when I first read that, I'm like, that's interesting. That would seem to be in line with sort of Trump's tactics, right? Because Trump would always threaten. He'd always never
Of
remove
course,
military stuff
yeah.
from the table. But then after that was published, Vance's team later pushed back on the newspaper's report saying, quote, the vice president didn't make any threats. He was simply stating the fact that no one is going to take options away from President Trump as these negotiations began. So it seemed like Vance tried to kind of walk back those comments.
Mm.
Then Zelensky conceded Thursday in an interview that it was not very pleasant that Trump spoke to Putin first, but he said the main issue was to, quote, not allow everything to go according to Putin's plan. We cannot accept it as an independent country. We cannot accept any agreements made without us. Okay.
Right.
So Trump ends up having an in-person meeting with Putin before talking to Zelensky. So Zelensky's, not super happy about that, but they're still seem to be in, good territory.
Well, I do. There's like this flattery component to Putin that
Mm-hmm.
may actually work, may make some headway. So I don't know that it's not the right move to talk to Putin first.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is definitely a very good point. Yeah.
I mean, you don't
So
have to give it. Zelensky's worried he's going to give him the farm, and if I was
right.
Zelensky, I'd be worried too. Obviously,
Yes. Yes.
look, I'm not even involved in this, and I'm a little worried about that. But
Right.
I don't know. It's so weird because it is like a Rorschach inkblot test because you can look at this, and obviously the left wing media is spinning it like this, like Trump is just a buffoon, right? Trump is an
Right.
idiot. Trump is going to cause massive catastrophe here. Or you can look at it like this is actually some good negotiation skills if you think, okay, well, like Putin ultimately has to put down the weapons. Like he's the one that needs to be persuaded, right?
Right. So far in the timeline, okay, before we get to the most recent post, so far in the timeline, I agree with you 100%. You can look at, if we were to look at both Trump's actions and both Zelensky's actions in good faith, hypothetically, I understand what both of they're doing, and they both seem to be doing what's like they think is best for their country. Obviously, Zelensky wants to do what's best for Ukraine. He wants to be involved with things. He's worried about, Pete Hegseth saying the stupid shit he's saying. He's kind of worried about, doesn't want Trump to sell the farm. And then you brought up the very good point of Trump saying like, maybe he wants to meet with Putin alone. That makes sense. And he wants to meet with Putin first because he's trying to like, maybe he's trying to fluff up Putin's ego.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So that would all make
Look, and
sense.
Putin, even in that interview with Tucker Carlson, I mean, Putin, he wants to be seen like a world player. He wants to be treated like the superpower the Soviet Union once was. So, I mean,
Yes.
and Trump seems to be playing into that.
Yes. I did watch, someone recommended, I should see who it was because it was like it was a really good video. I never heard of this YouTuber before. Um,
Was
let me
it
see
the
if I
pig
can.
guy?
No. Someone recommended this video from uh, Scar Chasmatron.
Scarcasmatron.
I've never seen his other videos, so I don't have like
But
a
it was
mental map of
good?
him. But it was called "The American Origins of Putin's Madness," and it was very interesting. And if it's, I mean, I don't know if everything he's saying is true, but if it is true, it's crazy because he kind of talks about how like all this stuff about like all these conspiracies about all the elites being part of some sort of grand deep state conspiracy to like, depopulate the planet and to, be part of satanic pedophile rings and all this other stuff. He kind of is very interesting. He talks about how this all kind of started in America with this guy named what's his name, LaRouche. Do you remember this
Hmm.
guy from like the 80s?
I mean, I've heard the name LaRouche. Is he on he's on the left though, right? He's a
Yeah,
leftist?
he was on the left, yeah, or maybe
Yeah.
still is, yeah. And he was this guy who'd always run as like an independent Democrat,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
essentially. And everyone used to kind of make fun of him in like the 80s.
Yep.
And eventually, I'm not going to get into it, but he basically ran away from America to Germany and kind of started this whole pipeline of like his ideas never caught wind in America in the 80s, but then they caught wind in like Germany and in Eastern Europe and in Russia when he fled there, and kind of goes through this timeline about how Putin started to believe like all this stuff that this guy was peddling, and it's
Oh my
pretty
god.
interesting. And so it's kind of disturbing because you're like, oh my God, is Putin like operating off of some worldview that's basically like from the mind of some, conspiracy theory asshole from like, 40 years ago. So,
Quite possible.
right. Okay. So then we move forward to February 16th in the timeline. President Zelensky reiterated in an interview that the country would never accept the peace deal struck by the United States and Russia if Ukraine did not have a seat at the table. So again, that is echoed. Um, in an interview on NBC's Meet the Press, Zelensky sought to avoid criticisms of President Trump and instead praise his strength. He said he told Trump during a phone call shortly after Trump and Putin spoke that Mr. Putin is untrustworthy and feared Trump. Zelensky said he believed Putin was scared of Trump and was playing towards Trump desires and wait, I'm sorry. Zelensky said he believed Putin was scared of Trump. And then the article says playing towards Trump's desire to be seen as strong and hope the US president could push Putin towards a deal. I said, quote, that he is a liar, Zelensky said to Trump of Mr. Putin. I said, I think my feeling is that he's ready for these negotiations, but I think he's really a little bit scared about Trump. I think the president has this chance and he's strong. I think he can really push Putin to peace negotiations. So obviously you have Zelensky, buttering up Trump, telling him like Putin's afraid of you. Putin's afraid of you because you're awesome. Because you're awesome.
Zelensky's buttering up Trump, and Trump is buttering up Putin.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. It's kind of
It
interesting.
is
Right.
interesting.
Right.
Yes.
Uh, the same day on the 16th, though, it's also widely reported that Zelensky rejects the mineral deal, the one that the Treasury Secretary had been pushing for.
Right, because he wanted to look at it. Did he
Yeah,
flat out reject it? He just didn't sign it.
they was flat out rejected.
Okay.
So, because of the security guarantee issue. The next day, on the 17th, Trump has meetings set up between the US and Russia to work on peace deals. Zelensky is very upset that he's not included in these peace deals. So, this is you probably heard, there's these peace deals set up in Saudi Arabia between US and Russia. Zelensky is again upset because it's not, people kind of misunderstood what's going on. It's not Trump meeting with Putin, it's that there's just like delegations of the US and Russia meeting together to talk about peace, and there's no one from Ukraine there.
Right.
So Zelensky's again worried about
But
this.
it's a
And
bilateral discussion, right? It's just
yes,
us and Russia.
it's just
US and
US and
Russia.
Russia.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. This is exactly what Putin wants. Putin wants to be the big player.
Right.
It's just the big boys club here. No
Yes.
little guys invited.
So then Zelensky's getting more upset about this on the 17th. He says Ukraine knew nothing about it. Ukraine considers any negotiations on Ukraine without Ukraine as such to be futile, Zelensky said during a briefing. Zelensky, I wonder if it should be, I don't know if he could, but I think if this is like part of the strategy of what you're saying, to try to butter up Putin, like Trump should just tell Zelensky that, shouldn't he? So even if he did tell Zelensky that, Zelensky can't say that publicly. So he does have to maintain an image to the public to say, Ukraine must be included in the negotiations again and again and again. He has his
Look,
own coalition of power to worry about, right?
yeah, and this has got to be part of the flattery to Putin. Like Putin loves to see this guy Zelensky squirm like this.
Right, right.
Like if Trump is making him squirm and ultimately knows that it's just for show, you don't get as good a performance, right? Come
I
on.
guess that's true.
He's like he's I and I can see Putin just eating this up. I mean,
Right,
I've read a couple books on Putin from insiders that have worked close to him and whatnot. So
right.
he seems like a psychopath, chronological liar, egomaniac.
Pathological liar.
What did I say? Chronological.
Chronological.
He always lies in
He's,
order, in
he always
chronological
lies in
order. Yeah. A
correct
pathological
temporal
liar.
order, yes.
Yeah,
But
no.
right,
So yeah, I just this is so fascinating because man, maybe Trump is the art of the deal here. Maybe Trump is completely playing this guy.
right.
Everybody thinks that Putin is playing Trump, and I guarantee you Putin is trying his damnedest to play Trump, but at
Oh,
the
of
same time
course, of
Trump is
course.
trying to play Putin. And
Right.
do you think I mean this kind of shit wasn't going on with Biden. This kind of shit would never go on with Harris. Oh my god.
No, no,
Fucking
no. But here's the thing. So obviously what you're talking about is definitely possible, but it's also like the most good faith interpretation of what's happening from the for Trump's perspective, right? Because obviously you can have a more bad faith interpretation, or maybe I shouldn't say
that
bad faith,
he's a
but
buffoon and he's giving it all away
a
and he's
more
gonna
negative,
yeah.
I should just say you have a more positive versus negative. You could have a more negative interpretation where you say, well, Trump doesn't really give a shit about Ukraine. That's why he's leaving them out of the conversation. He just wants to make a deal with Russia because he wants to pull out as much as possible because that's what his base wants and it'll look good for him. He can say he did peace and blah, 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 right?
The proof in the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and nobody's had one bite of this pudding yet. So
Right.
yeah, it's tough to say.
Well,
We're all theorizing until a deal comes down.
we'll have to see what the deal is. I mean, there were rumors about what the deal could be. They were not they were anonymous sources, so I don't know if they're
Well,
trustworthy.
were
The
they any
anonymous
good?
sources,
What was the deal?
no, it was really bad.
It was terrible. Okay. Well, look,
Yeah.
if
So,
that happens, then Trump is a buffoon, and
right.
everyone is completely correct.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to see until the deal becomes public. So,
Trump
uh,
is gonna fight like hell, though, not to look like a. Well, maybe he won't. I mean, a lot of times he does things that are seem very buffoonish and can be easily spun as buffoonish. So, and he doesn't seem to
right.
care. So,
Well, I have a theory about that, which I'll talk
okay.
about when we get to the end of the timeline here. But so this is also on the 17th after that meeting. Zelensky, it's interesting. So I guess because he was mad about not being invited, he then someone at this press event asked him about Pete Hegseth's comments from the 12th
Oh
days earlier.
shit!
And
What
and
did they work for CNN?
yeah, exactly. I don't know. And it says Zelensky rebuked the comments made by Pete Hegseth about
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine is unlikely to restore its 2014 borders. He says, "quote The U.S. is saying things today that are very pleasant for Putin.
Putin, yeah.
I think that is the crux of the matter because they want to please him. Do you know why? To meet each other and to have a quick success."
Wow. So he gets it. He gets it. It's not a secret.
Well, no, but he's saying from the more negative perspective of they just want this to be over and done with, wrap it up. They're not really concerned about Ukraine.
Right.
Right. So this is kind of, I think, like the first, it's a mild shot, but it's the first shot kind of fired is this whole, they're saying things that are pleasant for Putin because they just want it to be over quickly. Okay. So then we have the next day. This is where things kind of start to go a little bit more off the rails.
I mean, this timeline is insane because I mean, it's almost up to today now.
Yes, it is it. That's why I'm so glad I did this because it really made me see this whole interaction in a much different light.
Yeah,
That
I'm
I
only
feel
seeing
like,
bits and pieces. Like I've only really
yes.
known about maybe 25% of what you're putting together
Well,
here.
that's the
So
thing, yeah, because everyone, myself included, until you look into it, you just get little bits and pieces, and you don't really have the full picture of what's happening back and forth.
yeah.
And yet, the people involved, they have the full picture. So when they're doing things, it's very difficult to understand people's behavior without the full picture as possible.
Yeah, this is great. You're laying out the entire chessboard when most people are just looking at like 3 pieces.
Right, right. Okay. So now it's the 18th. Trump has his meeting. He's speaking after he has this meeting with Putin again. And this is where things kind of start to go off the
Was this the
rails.
Mar-a-Lago thing? Were you
Yes,
speaking
this
at
is at
Mar-a-Lago?
Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. I
So
saw
this is
part
where,
of this.
yeah. So this
This is
is
where
where,
people started clipping.
yeah, this is where people started clipping. This is where Trump makes the two comments that kind of start the firestorm. The two comments he makes are uh, that they need to have new elections. That Zelensky only has 4% support of the population,
That's
and
not
then
true, by the way.
which is
So,
not true. Yes, and then also that Ukraine started the war.
right.
Okay,
That's obviously not true.
right,
Dude,
right.
how could you even stay in office if you had 4% approval? That's insane.
Well, the 4%. Now I had heard the 4% approval line. I was like, that's crazy, and it's weird because actually the context of the line is 10 times worse than anyone ever reported it
Mm-hmm.
because they don't report the question that Trump's responding to.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so let
What's
me
the
play the
question?
question and you can hear.
How are you going to play it?
It's in the wash together.
Oh, it is? Let me bring the
Oh
watch
yeah, bring the
together
wash
up.
together up. Yeah.
Let's see here.
Oh, whoop. The video just disappeared for some reason.
What happened?
Yeah, hold
It'll
on.
come back.
Did you see it?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Okay.
It's up. It's
Go
way,
for it.
way up. Oh, my
Okay,
God.
that's
The
good.
watch together's so up.
Oh, thank you.
It
Yes.
is.
We're hearing that Russia wants to force Ukraine to hold new elections in order to sign any kind of a peace deal. Is that something that the U.S. would ever support?
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, or essentially martial law in Ukraine, where the leader in Ukraine, I mean, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating, and where a country has been blown to smithereens. You got
Okay, so that's why I'm saying this is even worse when you hear the question. So the context of this is in the question is Russia. Is it true Russia's going to try to force them to have new elections as part of the peace deal? And
Yeah.
Trump's response is to immediately say, well, he only has a 4% approval rate.
What do you think the chance is that there'll be a Russian stooge in that election if Putin
Very
manages to
high.
force elections? Yeah. How, like
100%.
5 Russian stooges, right? It's going to be
Right.
Zelensky against 5 Russian stooges.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play the rest of his answer here. But so this 4% thing is interesting because I was like, where does that number come from? And apparently everyone was like, where does that number come from? And the answer is nobody knows where that number came from. And so this,
Asshole.
right. Well, no, the speculation is that, and I don't believe Trump has ever responded to this. I don't think anyone's ever responded to this. The speculation is that Putin told Trump this 4% number. And he's
Oh
just
my
repeating it here.
God. No. He
So,
told him on the phone.
right.
Oh, shit. Okay, we're leaning towards the buffoon territory here.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
Oh, man.
most of the cities are laying on their sides. The buildings are collapsed. It looks like a massive demolition site. The whole, I mean, so many of the cities. I mean, they haven't done it in Kiev because I guess they don't want to shoot too many rockets in there. They've done it 20%, but they haven't done it 100%. If they wanted to do it 100%, it would probably happen very quickly. But you have cities that are absolutely decimated. And yeah, I would say that, you know, when they want a seat at the table, you could say the people have to, wouldn't the people of Ukraine have to say, like, you know, it's been a long time since we've had an election. That's not a Russia thing. That's something coming from me and coming from many other countries also.
So he does at the end, he does try to save it, say, well, it's not a Russia thing. But he did say it's from him, which this is a very weird thing. Because obviously, you know, in Ukraine, they don't have elections. And Anna did a good video about this. They don't have elections. It's part of the law before Zelensky ever became, you know, president, is that when the country's in martial law, you know, especially when they're in a war, they don't have elections until martial law is over. Most countries have, you know, laws like this.
Yeah, everyone's
And
talking about Churchill invoke this, I think,
Right,
during World
right.
War II.
Yeah,
So
yeah. This is not an uncommon thing.
as soon as
Obviously,
elections came back, he lost his ass, though.
right, right, right. But it's obviously it can be very difficult for to have a fucking national election in the middle of a war, and so regardless of whether you support or don't support it or whatever, this wasn't something Zelensky cooked up. It was something that was actually written into the Constitution of Ukraine. So he's following the law in the Constitution of Ukraine. And as soon as they came up with a peace deal, you could say like, okay, martial law is over. There's a peace deal now. Now they're going to hold elections. Like, I don't. It seems strange to me that why does this have to be a stipulation? Like, why would you have to stipulate this specifically? Like, there are obviously going to be elections once the peace deal is reached. Like, it makes
You
it seem
just to
more
get
suspect from Russia's perspective if they're like asking for this specifically.
just to fluff Putin, just to fluff up Russia. Like that's the
Right.
only like that. I mean, that would be the 10D chess motivation.
Hmm.
And if it works, if it does cause Putin to ultimately give in, then it's a success. But I mean, you can cast it as a buffoonish, he misspoke and shouldn't have said that as well. So,
Well, again, it kind of goes back to the Pete Hegseth thing. So, like, let's say Russia did say, okay, part of their agreement is that they want to guarantee that there'll be elections when the peace deal happens, right?
mhm.
Which that could be something that like you talk to Zelensky, assuming Zelensky's operating in good faith, he's going to say, well, obviously there's going to be elections when the peace deals are reached. Like that could be a very easy thing to like come to pass
To negotiate. Yeah,
to
exactly.
negotiate. So you would think that Trump would, if he's negotiating, intelligently or in the good faith of Ukraine's, best interest, he could hold that one in the chamber. And the response to Putin should be like, well, we'll see, right? Like make it seem like it is some kind of big ask so that Russia feels like maybe they're getting something out of it, not like, well, because if Trump just comes out and says, well, they better have an election because Zelensky has 4% approval rating and he sucks. Like it doesn't like it just again, it's like the Pete Hegseth thing. It seems like you're just giving away your negotiating chips for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It definitely seems that way. That's why I mean, until you see the end of the deal, it's
Right.
hard to tell where all this is going to lead.
Right. Okay. And I'm skipping ahead because he kind of goes on and on and on. But in the same answer is when he gives the whole Ukraine started the war thing. So
No matter where they're from on the whole planet. And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But
so again, so we have this, Ukraine started the war. It's their fault, essentially. Trump could have, magicked a deal if it was him.
Well, it didn't. I mean, that didn't seem explicit. And a lot of people do think that there was some sort of negotiation that could have happened before Russia actually invaded. So it seemed like he could have been talking about that.
Well, so there's a couple of things. First of all, they did try to have negotiations before. The Biden administration did try to have conversations and negotiations with Putin in the weeks following the weeks that right before the war happened, and Putin refused
Right.
to have those negotiations, right? So I think what happens is people conflate that with after the war had been going on for like a month, there was that situation where, Boris Johnson's dumb fuck ass goes to Ukraine and supposedly tries to
Broker some
tell
deal.
Zelensky to not take. There was some deal on the table they were talking about, and supposedly Boris Johnson tries to sabotage that deal. And
Right. Okay. So they're
people
already
in
in Ukraine at that point. Russia
right, but
is.
this is after they've been in Ukraine for a month. And there's two things about that deal that people always leave out, which is annoying to me, which is first of all, people just make an automatic assumption that Boris Johnson is talking on behalf of the United States, which makes absolutely no sense. The United States
Yeah,
is a
he's
big
like
boy.
UK, right?
Right. Yeah. The United States is a big boy country. United States talks for itself. We don't need to send Boris Johnson's retarded ass to go speak for us. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Can't
and
even brush his hair.
right. So maybe Boris Johnson did have some effect on it, but the U.S. is going to either agree or disagree with it, and they're going to send their own people. They don't need to speak through Boris Johnson. That's the first thing. The second thing is all the people that talk about this, they always leave out the fact that when Zelensky talked about this, he even brought up the big problem with accepting the peace deal was like right as they were discussing this peace deal, and even the negotiator that everyone points to who talked about the deal, like right as this peace deal was being talked about was when the Bucharest massacre was made public, where Russia had like captured some city in
Oh
Ukraine
yeah.
and just like executed hundreds, if not thousands, of people in the street who were
Yeah,
just
innocent
civilians.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. And there had been all these bodies. You probably remember from years ago when, like, a few years ago when this happened, there's all these satellite pictures of like streets with just bodies, spread on the ground. And they found a bunch of bodies where the people were, they had their hand tied and they were obviously on their knees and had been shot in the head in execution style. And these are just civilians. And Russia did this as they were leaving this city. They essentially just started killing everyone in the city. And so obviously it's very difficult for Ukraine to broker a peace deal when right after, it's like, oh, we just like executed a bunch of civilians in your city. Now sign our peace deal. So
Yeah, that's going to give them a certain thirst to fight.
right. So
Yeah.
not a great situation. So I do think it's ridiculous when people are like, oh, Russia again, the innocent angels here never did nothing wrong. Totally Zelensky's fault. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, they just, killed hundreds of thousands of hundreds, if not thousands of civilians, but whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
I completely disagree with Trump's framing here. Obviously, Russia
Right.
invaded. It's all Russia's fault. It's just not super clear what he is saying, what he's insinuating. So, but I think
Right.
you're correct that it's just all wrapped up in people's minds and he's just catering to that narrative
Yes.
that's out there.
Right. Okay. So then after this, Marco Rubio kind of maybe tried to do a little bit of a walk back.
For
Marco
Trump.
Rubio. Yeah, for Trump. Marco Rubio told reporters in Saudi Arabia that any final agreement would have to be acceptable to Ukraine and Europe as well as Russia. So he's
Right.
trying to say, like, look, like, listen, it's not so bad, Like,
Mm.
there's no. Let's try to see. Oh, there we go. I was like, where's Trump in this thing? Okay, anyway. Okay, so then the day after this, on the 19th, uh, you have Zelensky responds to this, and he says, speaking to reporters on Wednesday, Zelensky accused Russia of lying during Tuesday's notorious meeting in the Saudi capital, where the U.S. and Russia agreed to start negotiating to end the war. He says, quote, with all due respect to President Trump as a leader, he is living in this disinformation space. He says,
Zelensky
quote,
said that?
yes.
Wow. Okay.
He says, we are seeing a lot of disinformation coming. We are seeing a lot of disinformation that is coming from Russia, he told reporters. Unfortunately, President Trump, I guess this is a different translation. Unfortunately, President Trump, I have great respect for him as a leader of a nation that we have great respect for. And the American people who will always support us, unfortunately, lives in this disinformation space. Now, this comment was directly in relation, I believe, to the 4% approval rating thing. And this is, claiming that it was Russia that was telling Trump that there was only this 4% approval rating and that it was Ukraine that started the war. So that's what he was referring to specifically. Okay, then after that comment came out, that's when Trump got super mega triggered, and that's when he released his very incendiary post on Truth Social, which I'll read. He said, think of it, a modestly successful comedian, Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go to war that couldn't be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the US and Trump, will never be able to settle. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed. While the United States will get nothing back, why didn't sleepy Joe Biden demand equalization in that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us? We have a big, beautiful ocean on a separation. On top of this, Zelensky admits that half of the money we sent him is missing. He refuses to have elections, is very low in Ukrainian polls, and the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle. A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something I'll admit only Trump and the Trump administration can do. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably wants to keep the gravy train going. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered and millions have unnecessarily died, and so it continues.
Yeah.
So that was in response to the disinformation space line, I guess, set him off there.
Yeah, not a great interaction. But
No.
look, I think it's promising here because he said he's a modestly successful comedian. Look, he didn't
There you
say he was
go.
an utter failure.
Right, right. Exactly, exactly.
So
Yeah.
there's hope here, right?
Right. And so we'll just to talk about some of the fact claims again, talk about that 4% line is just no one knows where that came from. It's
Well, he didn't
completely,
repeat it in the tweet, so maybe
yeah,
he's
he just said
corrected
very
himself.
low. He just said
Yeah.
very low. So who knows? The only polling data that people I've seen draw upon, people obviously contend to the sources, but there was some source that said it was like 57%. There's some source that said it was like 60%. So no one knows where this low approval rating polls are coming from. And then the whole comment about half the money missing that is also not true. It was from some comment that Zelensky made where someone was saying that they gave Ukraine a bunch of money, and he said that we only get like X amount from dollars. The rest that we get is in,
Is in weapons,
is in
yeah.
weapons and stuff. And there was like a weird translation of it. So people, I guess, misinterpreted it to think that he was saying that they didn't know where the money went, which I mean, I understand people on Twitter misinterpreting it. It's pretty bad if the fucking president is misinterpreting kind of the obvious statement, but here we are,
So
I guess.
Zelensky is saying you're in a major disinformation space, and this is his response
Is to repeat
with a
major
lot of.
disinformation.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's not good, right?
No, it's not great. And then to sort of add on top of the not greatness. So there's this account on Twitter called
Oh no.
Amuse.
Oh no.
Okay. He's got like a little stormtrooper icon. He always like promotes, basically right wing MAGA talking points. And it's very weird because he puts out this. He says Ukraine claims Zelensky has an approval rate of 57% are from the Kiev International Institute of Sociology, which received U.S. aid funding for its polling. So they're saying, aha, that must mean it's not true. It is run by a very patriotic Ukrainian named Anton, I can't say his last name. It is unlikely the polling is credible. The U.S. Intel Committee estimates support at around 4%, which is the number Trump has been citing. Don't bet against Trump. Okay. So
Now
this
they
guy
believe
says,
the intel community all of a sudden.
which first of all is hilarious, right? Because remember, there was that whole thing in Trump's first term where he was saying, there was the Intel community was saying X and Putin said Y, and Trump's like, well, I believe Putin. Remember that big
Right, yeah.
controversy, like 5 years ago? But so this account, this large account on Twitter, makes this claim that the U.S. Intel Committee says that there's 4%. I don't know where he got this claim from. No one knows where he got this claim from. He provides no link. There's no Intel community that's made any sort of public announcement about this. It's just totally like pulled from fucking space here. But here's where it gets kind of disturbing. So I joined the community note program on Twitter, which I think they should actually revamp it so that everyone can be part of it. I haven't actually written any notes, but the thing that's useful about it is that you can see proposed notes that aren't actually
Wow.
up yet. And I think this actually should be available to everyone because it's very interesting to click on it and you'll see people arguing like back and forth between the various notes that they want to propose,
Interesting.
so that's a very interesting thing. And so if you click this guy's proposed notes, all the notes are like, where does this 4% come from? There's no reports about this. This is like bullshit. There's no reports that this is 4%. This guy just made it up, right? But what's this? So that's fine. But what's disturbing is that Elon Musk retweeted this guy, this 4% claim. Okay. Elon Musk retweeted this and says, unfortunately, community notes is being increasingly gamed by the government and legacy media, working on a fix to this.
Oh my God. Please
Okay.
stop.
And so I'm like, what the like? Okay, wait a minute. So first of all, Elon Musk retweets this guy who's just making this completely unsighted bullshit 4% claim, and the community notes are trying to say it's bullshit, and then Elon Musk is like, well, the community notes are wrong, and it's like, what the fuck? Like this is like crazy. I was like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Like, show the receipts or shut the fuck up.
Yes, exactly, right.
Oh man.
So it's pretty. I'm really again continuing losing faith in Elon. This was a really bad tweet. So okay, but going back to Trump's tweet for a second here. Is there something because I was looking at the tweet and part of what struck me about this tweet is again going back to this whole like Trump is supposed to be the guy who, when he's negotiating with Russia or with anyone, he's supposed to be like the hard ass, right? I mean, remember his negotiations, remember his interactions with fucking Kim Jong Un, right? You've got a button, my
I got
button's
a big
bigger,
button. Yeah,
Rocket
exactly.
Man, right? Like, he was, going, full on here. And it's very interesting to me to see that, none of that is occurring with Putin at all whatsoever in any regard. It's all just basically rolling over for Putin, essentially. And the thing that is striking me about this whole interaction with Zelensky is that it's making it so easy. Like this is all just serving up on a platter the negotiations to Russia. Because I think this is what's going on. I think looking back at the timeline, the reason that he's like attacking Zelensky is because he's basically wants to force Zelensky into taking this mineral deal. I think that's what he wants. I think that's what he wants. He wants
The
to basically,
American mineral deal with no
yeah,
security arrangement.
yes. I think Trump 100% wants to force Zelensky to take this mineral deal. I think he wants him to basically force Ukraine Zelensky to take whatever deal that they get from Russia, and that's why he's attacking him like this. Because it's basically it's making it so easy for Russia. It's making this is why this whole thing strikes me as like retarded. Well, retarded if you're trying to do what's best for Ukraine. If you're not trying to do what's best for Ukraine, obviously you could just say, well, then it makes sense. Because as a negotiation tactic, Putin Putin isn't stupid. He knows that Trump's base doesn't really like supporting Ukraine already. And then when he sees that Trump is getting into some sort of like heated back and forth attacking Zelensky, all Russia has to do is then sit back and say, well, we're gonna just keep asking for, the best possible deal we can get. We're not gonna give anything up because time is on Russia's side. They just have to sit back and let the internal pressure in the United States and the MAGA movement keep pressuring Trump to push for the deal. Like, so why would you give up all this negotiation power to Putin? Like, what's the purpose here?
How do you think the deal is going to shake out, though? If I mean, they want a certain number of, Russia wants a certain number of the natural resources of Ukraine. Like that's why they invaded to begin with.
Right.
And if those natural resources go to America in some sort of deal,
Mm-hmm.
you think Russia's going to be happy about that?
Probably not. No,
Yeah, because we're going to
no.
be in there more
Well,
westernizing the country.
here's what they might do is that they're probably because there's a lot of those minerals and a lot of oil is in land that Russia has conquered
Hmm.
or would
Well, that
or
makes
would
it even more complicated.
right or would get in if they like got if they drew the lines today. And so they might be like, okay, yeah, you can get, America can get half of the minerals on the Ukraine side, but we get 100% of the minerals on the side that we've taken over.
Well, that makes the negotiations even more complicated because I don't
Right.
necessarily know what the borders were for the mineral deal. Is that out there? Is that public knowledge? This mineral deal?
There's unsourced claims about it, but we don't
Okay.
know so about the deal. So
Yeah.
it is a wait and see attitude. And like another thing about the whole dictator thing is like if Trump is just playing hardball with Zelensky, kind of the way he did with Kim Jong Un, I don't think it's going to work because I think Zelensky himself has much different pressures, but more importantly, like the MAGA base for the last 3 years has become.
They
I don't know if
fucking
like the
hate Zelensky.
I don't know if like the voter does, but the pundit class of the MAGA base or the MAGA pundit class despises Zelensky. They've
Yeah, they
completely,
hate his guts.
yeah, they've sold themselves into this position for a bunch of reasons psychologically about how Zelensky's like the most evil man on the planet. Remember, like, it was a few months ago with Tim was like frothing at the mouth in rage about how Zelensky is evil, right? Which is weird. Like, you're like, okay, I've never seen him get this angry about Putin, who's literally invaded the country and is killing thousands and thousands of people. But Zelensky, he's like completely enraged at, which is very strange to me.
Well, Putin is not taking any money from America, and that
Oh,
gets
okay.
under Tim's skin. So,
Right, right. It just seems weird to me. It's like if someone is like screaming enraged at Israel, but they don't seem enraged at Hamas at all, and you're like, that's weird. Like,
right.
like if you're going to be enraged at Israel, why would you not also be enraged at Hamas, the people that started the whole situation?
Yeah, look,
It
I
seems
think
weird
it's,
to
it's
me,
just the
right?
money thing. He's
Right.
like, oh my God, they're spending our tax dollars to murder people. Holy
Right.
shit.
So, so it's going to be so. But if Trump is planning on playing this game, where it's like he's going to try to pressure Zelensky, and then he's going to kind of walk it, he's going to do like the turnaround when Zelensky does what he wants, right? Kind of like he did with Kim Jong Un, which Trump has done this in the past, so it's definitely possible that's the thought process. I don't like his base isn't going to go for that, or because they hate Zelensky so much. Like they didn't really hate Kim Jong Un that much, but they fucking despise Zelensky. So I don't know if they're going to go with him on the turnaround.
I've heard a narrative that the base will do whatever Trump wants, so, and Trump is just, all he has to do is dog walk him down and say, look, Zelensky did what I wanted him to do. Now he's a
Right.
good guy, and they're just going to embrace him open
Well, we'll
armed.
see. I guess maybe we'll find the answer to that question if
They're
that
all of a
happens.
sudden going to become Zelensky lovers.
Right.
It's going
Right.
to change on a dime. You sound skeptical that that could happen, but I've heard many people say that this is the situation. That
I
all of
think
MAGA is just mindless drones that will do whatever Trump says to do.
I think Trump has a lot of room to play with. More room to play with than any other politician alive in America in terms of getting the base to follow him. But it's not
Well, he knows how
infinite.
to sell it. Look, he can say, look, we got all these mineral deals, all these rare earth minerals that we're desperate to need,
Right.
that we desperately need for production. Whatever.
I mean, there's again all those. As I'm saying, I think he could sell it to the MAGA voter base, but through the MAGA pundit, I don't think he can sell it to. Now they might be audience captured enough to be afraid and to just go along with it. But as I said, they've been pushing the Zelensky is evil line for like 3 years. They can't just flip. It's hard for me to imagine they can just flip flop on a dime.
Is there a
Maybe they'll
situation where
do
they
some
flip flopped on
soft.
a dime?
Not that I'm aware. I mean, we're talking about a bunch of people. They might now they could do a soft thing where they'll say whatever. I don't like Zelensky, but peace is better, right? So they could definitely like create a scenario where they just write it off, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
which is what a lot of them did with the H-1B situation too. Because remember, it's the same thing with Elon. Elon has a lot of play with wiggle room to get people to follow him, and almost like a cult-like frenzy, but it's not infinite. And so you have the H-1B visa thing is like the straw too far, the line too far. People turn on him, but then even with Trump people were like, well, wait till whatever Trump says. And then when Trump kind of supported Elon, they were like, shut up about it. They're like, well, Trump has spoken, right? So we just have to shut up about it. So I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe Trump will just come out and walk it back. And if Zelensky agrees, he'll just flip on it. And maybe everyone else will just flip on it too. Maybe
It'll
we'll
be
get to see the answer to
easy.
that question.
It'll be easy to get them to reverse their position. If most of them are mad that we spent so much money, and if Trump says, look, we're going to make all that money back and then some with some mineral deal, like who can argue against that?
Because I don't think it's funny. I had a long conversation with Sammy about this yesterday. I I
That's
don't
hilarious.
think I I said this years ago. I think people's feelings on Ukraine, Russia are very complicated in
Mm-hmm.
that, and I said this when the war started. I said it's completely logical to say that you're afraid of a nuclear war. It's a completely logical thought process, right? I said this
Mm-hmm.
to Kurt when we had the conversation with him about it. It's complete, and also
Kirk.
to say that you don't want to like send a bunch of money there. That's also a logical thing, right? A
Mm-hmm.
completely logical thing. But those logical. It was interesting to see people, not like the voter base, but to see pundits who were pushing that position. They all bought hook, line, and sinker uncritically into the Zelensky is the most immoral, evil, corrupt person on the planet. And it makes sense why they would, because if you don't want to believe for whatever reason, if it's a good reason or not, that US shouldn't be involved in Ukraine, then your brain and your emotional state is going to want to latch on to narratives that say, well, it's not Russia's fault. It's really Ukraine's fault. It's really US's fault. It's Zelensky's fault,
Yeah, it's
right?
karma. He had it coming. He was a
Exactly.
dictator,
Right.
a
Right.
thug.
And I think that's why so many of the political pundits on that space completely latched on to the Zelensky is the most evil person on the planet. Is because it's like, well, they already wanted to have an excuse to have that position anyway. And that kind of made it more emotionally satisfying.
Yeah.
So you're right. It could all just be about the money. Maybe people will just be audience captured enough because I think the audience will go wherever Trump goes or is more likely to go where Trump goes. So who knows? But I
I
guess we'll find out.
if that's the deal that finally comes down, I just think it's hard to complain about that.
Right.
the biggest talking point is, oh, we spent all this money and don't have anything to show for it. So if Trump comes back and says, what do you mean? We did, first of all, we broke even and made money even. So we do have
Right.
something to show for it. We spent all
Right.
this money and we have a lot to show for it. That's going to be easy to sell. That's going to be so easy to sell to the MAGA base. I don't know. The big X factor here is, will Putin play ball?
Well,
And I don't know that that's going to happen.
yeah, because what is worrying here is, it is supposedly Russia has transformed a lot of its economy into the war effort.
Yeah, and
And
they've
so,
gotten around sanctions in so many ways. They're like setting up an economy that basically doesn't need us.
right. So the question is it within Russia's economic interest to keep the war going? I mean, obviously not long term because so many people are dying, right? So I don't know. Maybe that economic factor that I saw people talk about is being over exaggerated because there are, I imagine the Russian people not very happy about massive death toll that's mounting in a country that already has massive population decline as it is. So maybe that's an
He
issue.
sold it
Maybe it's
completely
not an
differently
issue.
though to the Russian people. The Russian people see it
Obviously,
as they're saving Russian people from Nazis. That's the way
right.
they have framed the
Well,
war. And
but how many people believe that in Russia? Like it's hard to tell.
Putin's brainwashing apparatus with the Russian people, I think, is probably pretty. I mean, he does a good job over here. Like, how well do you think he does with his own people, where he's got
Well, I mean,
complete and
I
total
don't know.
control?
It's different when you're living under it, right? It's easy when you're living away from it and you don't already want to be involved in the situation to believe the story. And if you're actually living under it and you're sending your children to die, it's gonna hit you differently.
Yeah. Well, now he's sending North Korean troops to die. So,
Right, right. So I don't know. You're right. Putin is
look,
the
I
X
don't
factor
know. I'm
because,
not inside. So,
but this is, but this is the main reason why I had such a big problem with this Trump tweet is that it's basically, as I said, it's serving up negotiations to Putin on the platter and it's telling Putin sit back, wait, allow continual pressure to build on Trump and on Zelensky, and you just push for what you want to get. It's like putting him in such a good, favorable position in negotiations. I don't really understand. Well, I guess I could understand it in a bad faith way, but I don't really understand it in a good, positive way in terms of Trump trying to do what's best for Ukraine or even America.
hmm,
So,
I don't see how they could do a deal, this mineral deal, without addressing security concerns just on our behalf. Like, we're going
right.
to, all of a sudden, we've got a financial interest in the country. So it's not just their security. Now it's our security as well, right? We've got billions of dollars in rare earth minerals coming out of the country. And Trump, even in one of these exchanges, mentioned we have to put troops there to defend our interest.
Well, it sounds like now this is unconfirmed. It sounds like reading between the tea leaves that the deal was essentially what they wanted to offer Russia, and Russia maybe said no. And the deal that what they were trying to offer Ukraine, which they didn't really like, was they were going to give basically what Russia controls. They're going to give that to Russia, which I believe is like 30% of Ukraine over to
Wow.
Russia. It's like
Wow.
20 to
That's
30% of
huge.
Ukraine. Yeah. And then they were going to say, you're not going to be part of NATO. We're going to guarantee to Russia you're not going to be part of NATO. We're not going to make any formal U.S. Ukrainian defense alliance. What's going to happen is we'll have U.S. military troops that will defend, the areas that are being mined for rare earth minerals, and they'll only be given orders to defend those areas specifically. So I guess if Russia invades and just walks around those areas, they won't do shit. Um, and then that there's going to be some kind of European military force that they want to kind of set up that's going to supposed to like patrol the border between Russia and Ukraine. It seemed like that was maybe what the ask was.
I mean, that's
And
a big gift to Putin right there.
right. And
That's a
Zelensky was like, I don't think that that's enough security negotiations. And supposedly the rumor is that Putin turned that deal down too.
hmm.
So I don't know where we're going here, but I guess, as you said, ultimately we're just going to have to see before we can pass final judgment. We're going to have to see what the actual public agreement
Even
is.
if there is a deal, I mean,
Right.
at this point, it's uncertain whether or not a deal is actually going to manifest itself.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously Trump is playing hardball with Zelensky because, they basically require US support to continue, or at least that's the thought process, unless Europe, you know, takes up the slack, which I guess is theoretically possible. So
Yeah, Trump needs something to sell his base if we continue to support Ukraine. So Trump, I mean, you can just look at it cynically that Trump wants to get the mineral deal so that we can continue the status quo in Ukraine and he can sell it to his base while we're continuing the status quo. And
right.
who knows if there'll ever be peace. Like, it's just going to continue the way it is. And look, that mineral deal could even be on hold until after the war is over. So, we could do continued support just under the optics that we're going to get some eventual payday out of the deal that Trump can sell MAGA on.
I think Trump would have a hard sell to try to get his base to accept the continuing the status quo indefinitely for the promise of minerals.
Oh, I think
Down
it's
the
a tough
road.
sell too, but I mean,
Yeah.
what option does he have? It's better than we're just going to continue the status quo. He can't do that, right?
Yeah, we could just say fuck you, and we're just not going to support you at all.
Can he?
Why
Can
not?
he? Oh my God. I, the Democrats are going to completely make hay. They're going to say, oh my God, you complained about the Afghanistan pullout, and this is 10 times worse. Putin marching over Kiev, murdering Zelensky in the street, fucking taking over the country. Oh my God. Are
I
you
agree with
kidding
you.
me? On
It's
Trump's watch?
I know.
Holy shit.
Listen, I
Putin tried to do that when this first
right.
broke out.
I
It's
know.
exactly what he tried to do.
I know. I understand. Here's the thing. In the first term, Trump had a bunch of people in his administration who were like the voices of temperance, right? And they all had their own, all these military people and all these other people that were kind of like,
Oh my God.
very hesitant about Trump pulling out of the military everywhere. He doesn't really have those voices this time around.
I'm
Who's
seeing a bet coming out of this.
who's it? No, no, no. I'm not making any bet here. I'm not going to make any bet here. I don't want to bet on this because it would be, you're right. The outcome would be horrible. I'm just saying I don't think it's impossible because it depends on who's Trump surrounded with. Trump's surrounded with people that tell him you should pull out, fuck Ukraine, fuck Zelensky.
There is
I don't know.
Look, there is no way in hell
Okay.
that Trump wants to see that on his watch. Oh my God. Oh my God. The fucking stock market would crater. We'd be down like 2,000 points in a day if that happened. If Russia completely took over Ukraine, oh my God, it'd be fucking red alert. It would be red fucking alert. There's no way in hell. This is a thing. Look, this is a situation for Trump. Trump has probably come to the conclusion that if I can't get a deal, I have to maintain the status quo. And the political calculation is, how can I maintain the status quo and sell it to my base?
Right.
Like, I really think that's what's happening here. So he's cooking up this mineral deal. He's playing hardball with Zelensky. Like, Zelensky probably knows, okay, well, this is what I need to do to maintain the status quo. So I mean, it is status quo or nothing. Like, just that option, that fucking Zelensky dead in the street. Oh, political suicide for Trump. And you gotta admit he knows that.
I hope you're right. I'm gonna say I'm like with you 90%.
Okay.
I'm like so I'm like more like I'm with you 90%. I have the 10% like fear, nagging in the back of my head. But
that
I'm
Cash
like 90.
Patel's gonna have a conversation. We gotta get rid of this Zelensky guy.
Well, no, I don't think that. I don't think he had anything to do with that. But so I'm 90% with you, right? Because you're right. It seems like it'd be such an obvious political fucking mistake, right? And I don't think Trump is like evil. I don't think he wants to see like a bunch of people fucking die.
He doesn't. No, of course not.
Right.
Look, he knows it's going to make him look bad. Obviously.
Right. Even beyond him not wanting to look bad. I mean, I think he just doesn't want to see a bunch of people die. I believe he's sincere when he says he don't want to have a bunch of people fucking die.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think he's like a psychopath.
Look,
Um,
you can't accuse such a TDS anymore. Look, this is so obviously not
there you
a
go.
TDS.
But
Like Destiny would be like, "Oh my god,
right.
Trump wants to see everyone die. Are you
Um,
kidding me?"
and so like, yeah, this could all just be the sort of hard nose trying to negotiate to force Zelensky to take some unfavorable deal. But then, of course, that adds the X factor of like, what if Zelensky just says, no, I'm not going to take some like crazy deal where we don't have security guarantees or where you get, whatever you get from the mineral resources.
Well,
Like
look,
Trump's going to
then
have to react to that. He's not going to just, sit on his hands.
he has more political cover than if this doomsday thing actually plays out, right?
Right.
Which none of us want to see, and I'm sure Trump doesn't want to see. If it plays out that way, like at least I mean Trump will definitely say, look, we gave him a deal and he should have taken it. Things would be different if he took it. None of this would ever happen if he just took our deal. Like that's his political cover, right?
That's what he would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Right.
This is so fucking fascinating, man. How long like this is moving pretty fast.
It
So
is. Yeah.
yeah. We'll see how things go. But
Mhm.
thanks for laying out the timeline and everything. Because like I only had heard bits and pieces, and I know a lot of people had only heard bits and pieces of
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah. And then I guess the final thing, which is just some random thing I saw on Twitter, is hilarious. So Benny Johnson, one of the guys who was,
yeah.
accidentally being paid by Russia, uh, he,
And also loves Andrew Tate, right?
yes, yeah, that's right. Even though he's supposedly Christian, he's promoting this complete lie. I saw Alex Jones was also promoting this. I don't know who started. I think a bunch of people were promoting this. It has a 31,000 likes on Twitter. Says Zelensky blocks access to President Trump's True Social platform in Ukraine. Okay. So this is what I mean where you say like the pundit class is trying to make everyone hate Zelensky and they despise Zelensky. They keep promoting this lie that Zelensky blocked True Social. And then even this got rated by the community notes to say this is completely untrue. And that actually True Social has never been available in Ukraine from True Social's end.
Wow.
And that True
Okay.
Social is not actually available is only available, I think, in like a handful of countries. And Ukraine was never available in. So
Hmm.
it was not, it was True Social's decision to not be available in this country and in those countries, including Ukraine. It wasn't
What a bunch of
Zelensky evilly
liars.
blocking it. Yeah. It's obnoxious to me that these people who they say these very incendiary lies. You got Cat Turd and Alex Jones and Benny Johnson, and they know it's not true. It gets rated as not true. They can look at the sources. The Ukrainian government says it's not true. There's not been a single person from True Social, to my knowledge, that has claimed that they tried to open up in Ukraine and they are blocked. And yet they never actually correct the record at all.
He's
So,
like
because
the
they don't give a
Maxine
shit.
Waters of the right.
Right. Right. So they don't really, yeah, and they don't care about correcting the record at all.
Anyway,
Okay. Anyway.
everyone loves old Benny Johnson.
Yeah. We covered one of his videos. It was pretty unhinged. I don't remember I don't remember what it was though.
Yeah, I think I haven't really watched a lot of his content, so
Yeah.
maybe he's a hugely lovable guy, but that tweet is completely dishonest,
Yep.
as you pointed out.
Okay.
I'll bring up the super chats.
Where were
Such a
Daniel Sank for 18 months says as a Ukrainian American, Zelensky indefinitely as Ukrainian American, Zelensky indefinitely postponing elections lost him a lot of goodwill. S class eats pizza with a fork. A team reigns supreme. Well, first of
woo! Look
all,
at that.
it depends what you're wearing, right? And it depends how greasy the pizza is.
Oh, you're commenting. You're not commenting on Zelensky, but
Even
you're going to comment
remember
on the pizza.
Remember, there was that picture of Donald Trump on Air Force One in a suit, and he was eating pizza with a knife and fork, and all the people
Right.
were attacking him. So, and
I
I'm
thought it
saying,
was
listen,
Obama that was
no, it
doing
was
that.
Trump. It was Trump.
Trump did it too.
Maybe Obama did, but I remember Trump did it because I remember all the people attacking him. And I was like, listen, if you're wearing a suit, I think it's totally, you don't want to get grease all over your fucking suit, man, your hands. So
Right.
I think it's fine. Sion Arakale for $10 says, but Sitch. Where does Zelensky's comments about 150 billion in missing money means the U.S. needs to give another 250 billion fit into all this? I'm all for helping the underdog, but where's the accountability? Well, I already said what the comment was about. Well, the comment was the twofold. It was to say that we got a bunch of stuff that we didn't get in money. We got it through military supplies, or they get it in they basically say like, here's money Ukraine. Like a lot of people don't understand this is how foreign aid works. They say
First, we
people
give the
think
money to American corporations.
right, like people have a complete misunderstanding of how a lot of this foreign aid works. They think, and this is what's kind of weird. They think like the U.S. government is just. It's weird that they just think the U.S. government is like both evilly corrupt and Machiavellian, but also retarded, and they're just like giving pallets of money away to people for nothing. With a lot of this foreign aid, they basically say, "Here's a bunch of money, Zelensky, but we're only going to give you this money if you turn around and you buy a bunch of U.S. military weapons." And he says, "Okay." They hand him the check, then he hands it right back and says, "Give me a bunch of weapons, please."
I'm
That's
under the
essentially how it
impression
works.
I'm under the impression it's even worse than that, because in this situation, wasn't it more like, oh, the United States military needs a bunch of new equipment. Well, what are we going to do with our hand-me-downs? Oh, I know. Let's ship them off to
Right.
Ukraine, right? They can have all
Right.
our old shit that barely works anymore.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
we get the bright, brand new, shiny military.
Right. Because they're like, well, yeah, that is actually exactly what happens
We
too.
spend
So
all the money on us.
right. Right. So it's a completely like wrong way to conceptualize it. But
Yeah. We didn't go out and buy our kid a new pair of shoes. We bought us a
right.
new pair of shoes and
But
said, hey, you can have the old one.
right. But in terms of the money, listen, I'm 100. Like if like I don't have a problem. You know, a lot of people on the left are like, I don't agree with a lot of people on the left in their way that they view Ukraine in two regards. Number one, there's a lot of people on the left who think Ukraine should not have to give up a single foot of territory. And I know that that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen. That's an impossible
Unrealistic.
ask.
Yeah.
It's completely unrealistic. That's number one. So I agree that this is ridiculous. Number two, some people on the left got very, very pissy about the whole mineral deal. And I understand it because they're like, oh, you know, you're supposed to be helping Ukraine on a moral level, blah, 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 blah. Like, I get it. But I'm also like, okay, but I understand this is the gross world of like real politics, and you know America wants something back. So I don't actually have a problem with them saying, hey, give us, you know, $500 billion in minerals. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. So if Trump
Yeah.
can get that deal, if he can sell, you know, the Trump supporters on that deal, like more power to him. I'm in favor of that.
Yeah.
Cameraman 502 for $5 says, you know, Zelensky isn't the dictator Trump claims he is because Trump wouldn't be attacking him and Trump would treat Zelensky how he treats Putin.
I don't
I mean,
buy that, but
I don't know. I don't necessarily buy it, but it definitely looks bad. But it's one of those things where we're just gonna have to again see we're gonna have to wait to see what the deal is that's being offered. To see
yeah.
is if it's a good deal, then we'll say, oh, like okay, I guess it all worked out. If it's a terrible deal, we'll say, oh, well, I guess all the negative views of Trump were correct. So
That is the common left-wing NPR narrative, that Trump just envies all the dictators of the world and he loves them to tears. But I do think it's just a negotiate. The flattery is a negotiation tactic. I think it did work with Kim Jong Un to some extent, and it might end up working with Putin. So,
well, here would be an interesting way to check this. Okay.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is going to happen, but here'd be an interesting way to see if this is true. Is if in a scenario where basically Zelensky agrees to whatever Trump wants in terms of this mineral deal. Okay. He gives Trump whatever he wants. So now Russia is the only, and Russia says no. So now Russia is the only person saying no. If at that point he just keeps rolling over for Putin, then it would seem like there'd be more teeth to that accusation. But if Zelensky basically does whatever Trump wants and then Trump starts going hard on Putin, then it'd be like, oh, okay, like that's just his like that would be more against that accusation, right? Because you'd be like, oh, well, Trump was just trying to get Zelensky in line before he goes after Putin.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. There is like a power differential here that's tough to calculate, because I don't know how much of it has to do with the dictator, not dictator, dictator versus Democrat versus the huge power differential. Obviously, Ukraine doesn't have as much power as Russia does
Obviously.
in the grand scheme of things. So,
Well, do you think it's possible that Trump is falling prey to the crazy employee problem, which I've talked about, which is that whoever is the most unreasonable, crazy person at the job usually gets what they want because no one wants to deal with them. And it could be possible that Putin just basically casts himself as the unreasonable person
And
in
Trump
the
is trying to beat him
situation.
at that. Trump is like, look,
Well,
y'all
no,
out
see,
crazy.
that's the problem. Trump usually is the one that tries to do that. He tries to
Right.
say he's unreasonable to make everyone bow to him. But that's why I'm saying it's weird if he doesn't try to out unreasonable Putin, right? If he's going to be just
Yeah.
deferential to Putin, that's where it's kind of strange.
Yeah, I guess all of this is kind of in the realm of the word negotiation type strategy.
Right.
But ultimately, reality guides the negotiation, right? Like, what are you willing to do?
Yes.
And I don't know. I think the status quo kind of exists for a reason because it's the path of least resistance. I don't know that Trump is really willing to do anything beyond the status quo. I think that's why my intuition tells me that he's gearing this up to be a political win just
Mm-hmm.
to sustain the status quo. Because that is the path of least resistance, right? We help Ukraine just enough to like not die.
Right.
But we don't help. Look, it's interesting and it's a complete dilemma because we could help Ukraine enough to actually fucking win, right? Like
Yeah,
to
maybe. Yeah.
march to Moscow and make a real statement, right?
Right.
But that ain't gonna happen. You know that ain't gonna happen because immediately the world's gonna turn on us and say, "Oh look, everything they've said about this being a proxy war is going to be 10 times worse if America's actually helping them march to Moscow."
I mean, I think Trump is really where I disagree with you. I think Trump really is trying to push. He wants it to end.
Oh,
I mean,
of course he does.
right.
Yes, of course he does.
I,
Yeah.
just- I think it'd be
But how do
such.
you make that happen though?
Why you're right in terms of like Putin is the stick here, depending on what. That's why I'm saying his actions are just so bad because it's basically promote. He's basically giving Putin the ability to just sit back and not agree to anything, which is retarded. And because I think Trump maintain the status quo is just going to be not a political win for him at all.
How do you make Putin do anything but sit back because like the only thing that we can do is invade the fucking country, right? What do we have?
I don't know.
Yeah, look,
I
we
don't know. Is that for Trump?
ultimate
He's the master negotiator, not me, right?
what are the look, we have a hand, he has a hand. Ultimately, the deal is going to be decided on the cards in our fucking hand. Like sure, you can bluff as much as you want, but sooner or later we're going to flip those cards over.
Yeah, but that's the whole part of Trump's supposedly part of Trump's negotiation tactics is that he doesn't use the cards in his hand. He always keeps drawing new cards from places you don't expect. He's just constantly bringing in new information, new cards, adding new pieces to the puzzle that he's trying to connect to negotiation to make the person negotiate. That's supposed to be like one of his strong points.
Well, I
So,
think also you nailed it with the crazy thing because people think, oh shit, he might just invade, right?
yeah, you'd be like, Trump
But
is unhinged enough to, invade Russia or attack Russia or whatever.
I mean, Pete Hegseth kind of maybe
Kind of
ruined
fucked
all
everything
that.
up, didn't
Yeah,
he? Yeah,
exactly.
right.
I don't know how you play the crazy, oh, we're going to invade card when you've basically you've cut Zelensky off at the knees already.
Right. So I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
don't,
We'll see.
there's no way in hell Trump is going to invade.
No,
And,
I don't think so.
and, and Putin knows that. Putin definitely
Right.
knows that. So I'm just like, Putin's best move is to sit back and just keep on keeping on.
I mean, I guess he could say, listen, we're just gonna flood Ukraine with as much weapons and money as we possibly can. Eat shit, right? Like we're not gonna invade, but we're gonna make it so that they can win, so that they can invade you.
Well, and I think Putin ultimately plans on uh, winning it through war or through diplomacy. Like the push to have elections is really so he can say, okay, well, that's a way to get rid of Zelensky as well. Like as soon as I get one of my stooges in there, the war's over anyway because I control the country.
Well, I think I mean, obviously, again, Putin also has to sell it that he won. So if they have elections and even if it's not a Putin stooge, it's just someone who's not Zelensky. I mean, he can cast that as a victory too.
Yeah,
So
it's hard for me to imagine it's not going to be a Putin stooge, but I don't. Maybe I don't look. We're neither one of us are there, so neither one of us really
right.
know the situation on the
I think it
ground.
would be pretty difficult unless it's like a super secret, double spy Putin stooge. I think it'd be pretty hard for like a pro-Russian candidate to win the election after, Russia's been in war with the country for 3 years. So
If it's not a rigged election, yeah, I agree.
why? Yeah, obviously. So
Yeah. Oh, okay. I
Bob
guess.
and Go for 31 months. Thank you so much. Says people think sovereignty is something you're given. You either have it or you don't. There you go. It's sad but true.
Huh. Yeah.
Jonathan Rosler for 29 months says, my impression is that Trump might be trying to force a peace deal regardless of the outcome, which worries me. Yeah, that is because it's obviously politically, that's why I'm saying it's giving too much cards to Putin because Putin knows Trump is kind of really wants a deal. So,
Well, there is Putin obviously would take a peace deal if it was giving all of Ukraine to Russia. Sure. He's like, yeah, sign me up. That's a great peace deal. I love it.
well, I mean, I could just see it doesn't even have to be that. I could see Putin basically saying no, 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 yes. Like they're just going to keep saying no to see as far as they can essentially push America to give whatever until they can find like the literal last breaking point, and then they'll say, okay, we agree now.
Do you think Putin believes he can take the whole thing?
No, no, I
Okay.
don't think he does think that.
Hmm.
Karakin for $5 says, my brother called the Ukraine-Russia peace deal that Trump is dealing with the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with the U.S. as the Nazis. Not sure what to say to that. I mean, I guess to say is we'll see what happens.
We're the Nazis? What?
I guess we would be the Nazis in the situation. Yeah. So 90. I don't obviously think that that's the case, but 95 key for $5 says the craziest part was when you remember Trump has only been in office for a month. I
I
know.
totally agree. Yeah.
You got 4 years of this. Get ready. I mean, there's obviously going to be a slowdown,
Is
at some
there?
point. Of course. Of course.
I feel like Trump will just move on to some new fight. Trump loves this shit.
Well, watch as soon as Russia Ukraine ends, China invades Taiwan, and that all starts off. So, you
Oh
know.
my God, please. No. How dare you?
Amoeba Sheep for 50 knock knock says people forget that Norway also shares a tiny border with Russia. I hate the military siren test they do in my city. I work nights. I need sleep. Oh, that's awful. They fucking do
Wow.
siren tests in the city. That's crazy. And that's true.
Ouch.
Yeah, people forget that. Russia also shares a border with Norway. That's true. Garyman 502 for 24 months. Thanks so much for being 2 years of Free Will Seeker. Says the war has dragged largely because Putin believes the West is weak, distractible, and can be easily manipulated into giving up. Trump is proving him right. I
Well, I agree
mean,
with that. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not. That definitely seems to be on target. So
We like, I don't know. I guess we will know decisively maybe in a month or so. But they're going to keep saying, "Oh, we're just on the verge of a peace deal," right?
right,
I don't know how long people are going to accept that.
we'll see. Who knows? Maybe this will all change tomorrow. We'll wake up tomorrow. Zelensky and Putin have magically agreed to some deal, and so I'll be for naught. 95 key for $10 says Putin bringing up elections himself means that Zelensky has to say, but Putin rigged elections to Trump's face. A man who spent years hearing his election was rigged by Putin. Maybe. I mean, that's like a crazy 10D chess move. If that's the case, it's possible. It's possible. It is, and people were obviously bringing it up, saying it was kind of silly. Trump is talking about how Ukraine, has to have elections when no one with an IQ above room temperature thinks that Putin was, has non-rigged elections in Russia. So
See, that's the thing the Democrats would come in and try to get Trump to say, which is just completely fucking annoying. I'm
right.
surprised that maneuver isn't happening now, where the Democrats come in and just completely make America's negotiation position terrible because of their
I mean, people have said that.
political antics. Really? Have they?
Yeah.
Well,
I
it's not
mean,
being widely publicized
no,
though.
no, no. But
Yeah,
so,
where they're like,
but yeah, no.
oh,
Obviously, Trump. Well, that's kind of why it's stupid for Trump to even bring it up in the first place. He's opening
yeah, of
himself up
course.
for that, attack.
Yeah, Trump. If the Democrats want Trump to come out and say, "Oh, Putin's rigged all of his elections," and
Right.
they would make it sound like a moral infraction that he hasn't said it and doesn't say it 20 times a day.
Of
Right?
course, of course. But that's like Trump's answer to that question should have just been, you know, we're working with a peace negotiation between Russia and Ukraine. I think both sides are going to, come to an agreement that they like. But Ukraine is a sovereign country, and part of the negotiation is not going to be Russia controlling Ukraine's internal politics or something, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
What would happen to the negotiations if Trump did come out and say Putin rigs all of his elections?
probably wouldn't be
Yeah, it would
good
just
for the
fucking
election
scuttle
for the
everything, right?
for the compromise peace talks.
Completely destroy everything.
So
But the Democrats would feel good. That's right. It's about the principle.
a spiraling whale psychiatrist for 17 months says, yeah, not going to lie, this sucks to hear as a Trump voter holding out for a good result. He could ruin his legacy if he bends over to Putin. What a shit show.
Yeah, look, I feel for Trump voters because nobody wants to hear this. Everybody wants it to be like a great deal. So,
I mean, I feel more for Ukraine than Trump voters.
what do you mean? Why would
I'm
you
more
care
concerned
about
with
them?
Ukraine having a good deal than the emotional stability.
I
of
can't
Trump
believe
voters,
this. Sitch cares more about the Ukrainian people
I know.
than Americans.
I know. What a bastard I am, right?
How dare you?
Yeah.
Look, American, psychological welfare is much more important to me personally than the lives of every
That's
Ukrainian
fair.
citizen.
You know what? That's
so.
fair. I changed my mind.
But
That's
look,
fair. Yeah.
where's Spoon in the chat? This is the
Right.
perfect time for him to be like, oh, these egotistical Americans.
Right, right. Malik for $10 says, remember, Trump has had beef with Zelensky since the second impeachment. He's still holding that grudge from 2019.
That's not true. No.
We talked, maybe you came in late. We talked about that in the beginning, Malik. Me and Adam, we don't agree with that because, first of all, it was the first impeachment, and the second impeachment was January 6th. Zelensky basically was doing everything Trump wanted. So I don't know why he would have beef, unless he would just have beef like unconscious emotional beef just because Zelensky was involved in a something that got Trump impeached. But Zelensky was going to do everything Trump wanted. Yeah.
And Zelensky Zelensky basically said he got elected by emulating Trump. So Zelensky was totally blowing up Trump's ego. Yeah.
And I believe Zelensky's always defended Trump's send the phone call was fine.
Yeah.
To my knowledge.
Yeah,
so.
totally. He backed him up in the impeachment, said he did nothing wrong.
Right.
So there was no beef.
Slate King for $10 says Putin is using the Lenin strategy where you push with bayonets, keep moving. When you hit mush, stop when you hit steel. A metaphor for Russian foreign policy. Maybe.
They do have an imperialistic foreign policy, that's for sure.
Right.
Putin wants to take over. Putin wants to get the band back together.
Solid for $2 says, in that clip where Hasan is showing his friend the Houthi music video, he wasn't saying he didn't make it. He was saying, it is what it is. I don't see the problem. That means he's desensitized. That's worse. Dun, dun, dun.
Yep.
Maybe.
What a great show. Is that it? Are we good?
I think that's it.
Holy cow. Okay, update your guys' address if you haven't already. I think I got about 500 packages ready to go out today. So hopefully everyone's shipment will be done by the end of the month for Supervillains Anonymous, our comic. So actually, I take that back because like a lot of people are backing now because they're like, oh shit, the comic's going. So Indiegogo does this thing where it makes you wait 10 days. Like if you want a refund within 10 days, you can do it without me doing it. Like I can't hold your money. So I don't want to obviously ship out stuff and then someone does a refund immediately. So I have to wait until that 10 days passes. So if you're backing right now, you probably won't get your shipment for 10 days, just to let you know. But update your address if you backed a long time ago. I got a ton of shipments ready to go out. They're going out daily. A lot of people are getting it. A lot of you are thanking us and super chatting your feedback. We always want more feedback, so keep them coming.
Wait, what happened with Destiny? Is there some new Destiny drama?
Destiny, I think there's like gonna be a case, and I think they are talking about it being like a jury trial, so or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I saw there was some clip on it, and the main takeaway was Destiny. No one's talking to Destiny. He was complaining that like only 2 people will talk to him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to bet who those 2 people are? One of them's got to be not so erudite, right?
There's Pisco.
Is Pisco still
I don't know.
talking to him?
I have no clue. I'm just trying to throw shade.
Oh, okay.
Pisco. I have no clue.
Well, I'm throwing shade at not so erudite anyway.
Right.
So I don't know if they're still doing their podcast, but
But
anyway,
did Destiny make a comment about Destiny revealed Pixie sent him pics of nude images of other men before Destiny did.
oh, is that?
Yeah, link
Wow.
it to me on Twitter. That's hilarious. Oh my God. Is he really going to be like, it was okay for me to share unconsensual nudes because she shared unconsensual nudes with me?
Oh, this is breaking news
Oh
right here. Cash
no.
Patel confirmed. Look at this.
That's not really surprising, is it?
Chuckles to sue for $2. Cash Patel was confirmed. People
There
were
you go.
asking in chat if we thought he was going to be confirmed or not. I always assumed he was. There was just going to be a fight over it. So,
right.
But it's interesting that he finally got confirmed, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's not interesting. Did anyone think he wasn't?
I think people did, just because it had been so long and Democrats were smoking the
trying to drag their
copium.
feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we said this at when we watched the hearing. We said that he wasn't gonna.
Actually, I think Democrats were smoking the hopium that he wouldn't be confirmed. But
okay.
Evidently that hope dies today. Oh my God, Cash Patel.
So apparently, Jay Stalker posted, we have Pixies versus Stevens court documents, the actual complaint.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You know who's going to be going over that? Our friend Sean, right?
I'm sure.
Potentially criminal is going to be talking about how.
I'm sure he will.
He should call that stream, that Destiny stream, probably criminal. Not possibly criminal, right?
That would be
probably.
Good. That would be good. Wow, there's a lot of fact allegations in this. They're saying the violation of Intimate Image Protection Act, which I guess would be revenge porn, violation of sexual cyber harassment, and violation of inflicting intentional emotional abuse, and invasion of privacy.
If he's making the argument that she did this first, isn't he kind of admitting that he did it?
Well, he has to admit. I mean, he can't like defend that he didn't do it, right?
I mean, why not?
Because it was how did the person get the images then? Like, you can't really deny that you did it. It's like he was caught red-handed.
Right.
So someone says uncivil law already covered it, and then Destiny responded to uncivil law covering.
Really? Wow, things are heating up.
Interesting.
I got a little bit of schadenfreude in here because Destiny I felt so unfair with us about everything constantly.
Right.
And I mean, we did our best to disengage, and Destiny just kept like nagging us, basically.
Yeah, sure.
So, but yeah. Look, I would never do anything like that. That's fucking horrible. Sitch would never do anything like that. Fucking horrible.
Pixie has said that she has consent to send the pics she sent.
Oh, really? She asked the guys ahead of time?
Right. I don't know.
I'm sure the guys are going to sweep in and say, oh, well, I'll just tell you I gave you consent. I don't care.
Right. Why would
Destiny saw my pee-pee? Who fucking cares?
Why would Destiny want to see pics? What does that even mean? Like, why would she be like,
what?
Oh,
you're really asking this? Wasn't Destiny like a blowjob fiend?
I guess he was bisexual. That's weird, yeah. Right.
Oh
Pixie said,
God.
this is what Pixie said on X. She said, Destiny's implying I am guilty of the same crime he is. This is false. The guy was my ex who consented to sharing. I was not recording random one night stands. Destiny knows the truth. He is taking screenshots out of context in an attempt to twist the narrative. I hate the fact I'm being forced to humiliate myself like this. I was sexually struggling, and my ex suggested me experimenting with others to see if it could increase my confidence. Okay. What the fuck
These
is
people are in
wrong?
such fucked up relationships.
What the fuck is wrong with the Zoomers? I've heard this from so many Zoomers. I don't know where the fuck this like mind virus meme came from. This whoever came up with this idea, like there's problems in a relationship, you should open it up. That's insane. That never works. It will never work in the history of ever. Okay. I don't know where this meme got started. I don't know who thought this was a good idea. It's the most retarded shit I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah,
Who's promoting this idea?
most problems in relationships are from jealousy or some sort of insecurity, right?
Jealousy,
So
insecurity,
yeah,
communication problems. Yeah, it's like,
so you're gonna take that fucking insecurity and make it 10 times worse by going around fucking other people?
I know, I know. It's like this weird Zoomer thought process. I don't know where the fuck this came from.
I
And younger
mean, just
millennials.
look, it's just a matter of time until they fuck someone that's 10 times better than you and you're
There
out of
you
the
go.
picture,
I know,
right?
right? Exactly, exactly.
You're gone. I mean, why wouldn't you fight for what you want? If maybe this is just a way to get out of the relationship.
Maybe,
I've
maybe.
seen I think it's I've seen that argument before that women oftentimes cheat to get out of relationships, not because they're like men cheat because they want variety. They're like, look, I'll
Because they're
sleep with
horny. Yep.
100 girls, yeah, but I'm staying with my wife, right?
Right, right,
But women cheat because they want out of the relationship with the dude, and they know that cheating is the best way to make him lose interest in her. Because
right,
like as soon as she cheats, he's gonna be like, I'm out of here. Fuck this.
right.
Yeah.
But here, let me continue the post. I wanted to make my partner happy, but I didn't want to try things with random people. So I chose someone who was a quote expert with consent and boundaries. Oh, what a mistake that
Was this
turned out to be.
Destiny? Destiny
Yes.
is like the expert.
Destiny is the consent boundaries expert. Yes. I
Oh my
chose someone I
god.
thought I could trust. Now you decide to violate my privacy not only once but twice by posting my private sexual messages with you. I never wanted people to know about my sexual struggles in the past. I never wanted to litigate my sex life. This was supposed to be private. The details of my sex life are supposed to be for my partner and me only, not random strangers on the internet. Destiny, you were the second person I ever slept with. I thought I could trust you. Now you're using intimate details of my life against me. I need you to stop. You already shared some of my most intimate moments for the world to see. Why are you forcing me to share more? What do you gain from this? Well, I mean, this, even though I think Destiny is 100% in the wrong, I hope he gets soon to oblivion. This response is kind of retarded. It's like, what do you mean? Obviously, what he's trying to gain is he's trying to attack you or character, besmirch you, muddy the water, defend himself. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Why is he doing this? It's so obvious why he's doing this. It's the most obvious thing on the planet.
This is a Destiny move, reputation destruction all the way.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course.
I just this is gonna play out in court in front of like a prosecutor and shit.
I think,
All
yeah,
of
but
this is unwise.
I think this is Destiny's thought process. I think he already knows he's going to lose the court case
Hmm.
because I mean he broke the law and he doesn't seem as pretty indefensible from legal standpoint. And so all he's trying to do is
Save his career.
set it up so that he'll settle out of court for some undisclosed large amount of money, but he needs to save his streaming career. So that's why he's doing this. That'd be my guess.
And he's got only 2 people on his side currently. So
Right,
and
right.
Pisco's dying to rush back in there, but he's like, no, 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 not until you
Not
clean it
yet.
up.
Not yet. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, is Destiny going to allow any of these people to run back to him? He's like, no, you turn your back on me. I will build new arbiters that will support me, that will have my true loyalty through everything.
How is this different than any of the shit he accuses Trump of all the
I was
fucking
thinking that
time?
exact thing, which is why it's kind of funny. So,
It is, yeah. He just wants loyalists. That's all he wants.
right, right.
Destiny rubber stampers.
Sitch, read claims 3 and 4 on the last few pages. Claims 3 and 4 on the last few pages.
Oh no.
Well, 3 and 4 are on the last few pages. What do you mean? 3 and 4 is like the first couple pages. 3. Wait. What are you talking? Wait, what do you want me to read? What are? I don't understand what you're saying. Invasion of privacy. Let's see. Defendant publicly disclosed private facts concerning the plaintiff that were not of legitimate public concern, including sexually explicit videos without her consent, in which the defendant continues to do this day. There's no public concern that justifies disclosing sexually explicit images or videos of the plaintiff without consent. At all times, defendant acted intentionally and with reckless disregard. Blah, blah, blah. Such disclosures have caused the plaintiff extreme humiliation. Prayer for relief. Defendant, number 1, appropriate compensatory statutory damages. Number 2, appropriate equitable injunction relief against defendant as allowed by law. Number 3, for an award of punitive damages. 4, an award of reasonable attorney's fees. And 5, such other further relief to which the plaintiff may be entitled. I mean, it seems to be standard.
What are you laughing at?
Your poll here.
What poll?
Yeah.
What poll are you talking about?
The does Destiny have Pisco's nudes? Yes, no, or I've seen them. That's terrible.
Look, if anyone clicks on that, I've seen. Oh my God, 31%. I've seen them. Holy shit.
Terrible.
I mean, look, I'm collecting receipts here.
Right.
We have eyewitnesses. Look, you guys are all opening yourself up to subpoena if you answer that last entry.
Yeah, prayer for relief 3 and 4 is punitive damages and reasonable attorney fees. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's my guess. I think Des is going to try to settle, give her a big check, and then salvage his own reputation by slamming her reputation. But actually, maybe I take it back. If that's the thought process, this is kind of a retarded way to do it, because what you would do, well, I don't know, maybe he has to do it this way, because if he starts attacking her again, it's going to make like whatever settlement deal harder to negotiate if he keeps attacking her, right?
Of course, yeah,
So,
it's going to make it impossible. It's she's going to be like, "Fuck no, drag his ass in front of the jury."
Right.
Actual justice lawyer in the chat says, "I should have asked Pisco on Sunday."
You should have, yeah. Maybe that's why he was so testy. But and also, I mean, I don't know what's going on with Cherry's case, where she's trying to push criminal charges, I think, against Stevens. So.
Really? Oh, I didn't know if this case was criminal or. I guess I should have known it was civil, right?
Pixies is civil, but I believe
there's some monetary damage involved.
Yeah, Pixies is civil, but I believe Cherry is pushing for criminal charges. So anyway,
I heard that she asked for $15 million in the first round of negotiation. So does Destiny have $15 million to like?
I don't know. That's a pretty big chunk of change to be thrown out there. So
yeah. I mean, how do you put a price on something like this? Because it is devastating. She's not like a porn star or anything. She doesn't want like her. I mean, she didn't sign up for a sex tape, right?
Right.
This was a consent expert, right?
Mm-hmm. So apparently, Not So Erudite will continue to do shows and collaborate with Destiny going forward.
Yeah, I knew she would. Look, I nailed it.
Yeah.
I told her she was one of the ones.
Yep.
The question is, are they?
I mean, if I was Not So Erudite's husband, I'd be like, you did not talk to Destiny anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You need to move back to Canada. Anyways.
Blaine's Escape Corner says, that's not a fair poll. Pisco shows his ass every stream.
There you go.
True. Oh, beautiful.
True. And Lou Silver for 2 hours says, rest easy knowing you both are stand-up fellows. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, look, Sitch and I both keep each other honest. We both have good moral compasses.
That's
like
true.
We're not out to screw anyone over. And I mean, it's so rare. so many people in the content creation space are just royal pieces of shit. So Actual Justice Warrior, he's a great guy. So
I was like, you're like, so many pieces are royal, so many people are royal pieces of shit.
Actual Justice Warrior, like Anna Kasparian, I never lose any sleep worrying like Anna Kasparian is going to screw us over in the future, right?
Right.
I don't worry about Sean screwing us over in the future. Sean, look, when the LA fires happened, Sean texted me personally and made sure like I was okay. My house didn't burn down.
What a good guy.
Look, that's a nice guy, right? He didn't have to do that. Look, he's thinking of me. So yeah, great guy. Not many people in the space will do that. Destiny might text you and say, I hope your house fucking burned down, you piece of shit. Right? So, okay, anyway, we should go.
Solid for $2 says, remember when Voosh said, quote, just ask her if she wants to open up the relationship. It can't hurt to ask. Most women will end a relationship on that question being asked alone. What a fucking retard.
What an idiot. It can't hurt to ask. And this is the advice he's giving to his audience.
Terrible.
What a bunch of losers. You guys are going to be incels your entire life if you take that fucking advice.
Yes. Yes.
That's the worst advice ever. Dang.
Anyways,
all right.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for your incredibly generous donations. Make sure that your address is correct and make sure you back the comic if you want. Supplies are limited. We're running out.
Sitch is actually sending me the drawings too. So you guys who order drawings, you're going to get your package soon too.
You're getting your package
hand delivered.
Yeah, I'm not going to make.
Your big fat package is in the mail.
Big fat package of your Sitch drawing. Okay, we should have had a tier. Like, do you want Sitch to hand draw a lewd Sitch drawing, right? For an extra, an extra little.
It's not too late.
Not too late. Maybe
let us know in the comments if you want lewd drawings from.
Let us know if you want to spend extra money for me to draw a lewd Sitch or Sitch Chan. Okay.
Yes.
I can't guarantee you'll be good, but I'll try.
All right. Okay. Anyway, take care, everyone.
See you guys on Sunday.
Later. Great stream. Oh my God, that was amazing.